Chaos erupted in downtown Puxian when a pig, carrying a woman, rampaged through the streets, startling onlookers. A woman rode atop the pig, stirring commotion as it charged wildly. Nearby, a clever young girl sat on a bench with friends, noticing something odd. She pulled out her ruler, sensing a presence, and declared it was close. They ventured into a tunnel. A boy in the group scanned the surroundings, saying they were nearing it. A distant light revealed a creature's shadow. The girl spotted it, calling it a ghost, and gripped her ruler tightly. The boy scoffed, saying it was a weak ghost, not worth a garlic clove. The girl, who worked part-time, revealed her ruler's magical powers and chose to confront the ghost. She unleashed a powerful energy blast at it, urging her friends to press forward fearlessly. The boy and pig charged, clearing a path, while the girl trailed behind. The ghost, undaunted, advanced to crush the meddling humans. But the pig, cunning, leaped, flipped mid-air, and slammed into the ghost with both hooves. The boy joined in, wielding hand magic to slice the ghost instantly. The girl reserved the final blow, striking the ghost with her enchanted ruler. She explained that invisible beings lurk in this world. Her side job was vanquishing evil spirits. She recounted a tale of a bear and tiger who sought humanity from Lord Wanan. Wanan promised that eating sacred wormwood and garlic and avoiding sunlight for 100 days would make them human. The tiger fled after 7 days, unable to endure. The bear, steadfast, fulfilled the divine vow. She became human, bore Wanan's son, who founded the Korean kingdom of Tangan. Yet an untold Tangan myth lingered. When the tiger and bear sought humanity, other animals heard. A boar vowed to drink as a human, but quit on the 2nd day, too gluttonous. A fox dreamed of riches, but vanished on the 3rd day, too vain. Most animals failed within a week. Those who didn't become human lingered near people. They deceived, devoured livers, sometimes deliberately, and bitter, hunted humans. A man entered a room, telling a huntress he'd found her at last. An old woman nearby thought she'd slain all such beasts, surprised to see one seeking humanity. The man eyed a baby, calling her cute, eager to avenge his wife's wrong. The old woman warned that harming her granddaughter would make him a corpse. Seeking revenge? She accused him of reeking of blood, living a life of harm without remorse for his victims. Slipping his sacred ring on his finger, she declared his time to die, drawing an arrow. He transformed into a monster, mocking her as a feeble old woman unable to draw a bow. He dared her to shoot, claiming her arrow would pierce her granddaughter's heart. She called him a sly fox. After 60 years of hunting, she fired. The arrow passed through the child, striking the man. He was stunned. The child flailed, unharmed by the arrow. Yet she clutched her chest, crying out in pain, baffled. The old woman took the child, declaring the beast posing as human wasn't one. Feeding on livers, it would find no peace in death. In the afterlife, he'd turn to dust, atoning for sins. The man, shocked, revealed she'd killed two, his unborn child in his wife's womb. He cursed her, claiming she, the huntress, must pay. He morphed into a monster. He taunted her to endure losing a child, as he had. The old woman, stunned, asked what he meant. He vowed that when her granddaughter turned 17, the old woman would die. As he fled, he razed everything, leaving a mark on the child's neck. Furious, the old woman cursed them as damned foxes. 16 years later, Nara, now 17, lived carefree in Seoul. She slept in her room until a friend burst in, announcing her birthday. Nara grabbed her phone, shrieked, and leaped from bed, saying she'd be late. Her mom and uncle appeared, celebrating her special day. Nara, rushed, asked them to step aside. Her uncle handed her a gift, saying it was hers. Excited, Nara wondered if it was a new phone, nearly fainting at the thought. But opening it, she was let down. Her uncle gave her 2 iron dumbbells. He always preached that strength was national power. Nara had told him not to gift her his own desires. Her mother clarified the gift was for her, costly, a necklace to ward off curses. Nara perked up at the mention of jewelry, but was disappointed. It was a voodoo necklace, not what she'd hoped. She asked her mom if she wanted her to be bullied. Her mother hugged her, marveling that she was already 17. Her uncle admitted he'd feared she wouldn't reach 17, as rumors suggested. Her mother interrupted, dismissing it as an old man's nonsense. She assured Nara that tales of fox curses and misfortunes were rubbish. Nara asked, "Fox curse?" Skeptical, Nara wondered who believed such things nowadays. Her mom hugged her, wishing her a happy birthday. Nara thought the real curse was exam mistakes, terrifying enough for a high schooler. It was her 17th birthday, the day she was fated to die, with a mark still on her neck. For Nara, her 17th birthday felt unique. At school, it was routine like any other day. Spring brought warm days, perfect for fun with friends. Nara rallied her friends for a photo, urging them to squeeze into the frame. A ball landed nearby, and a boy shouted to toss it back. Nara, feeling bold, struck it hard. Now 17, she was in her teens. The boys were impressed by her swing, but her sneaker flew off, smacking a boy's head. He turned, asking what that was. Nara approached, apologizing. He picked up her sneaker, asking if she'd lost it. She confirmed. Then, oddly, he sniffed the sneaker. Her friends gasped. It was Namjin Woo. The girls buzzed, pointing out Woo, a freshman heartthrob. He said her name aloud. Nara nodded. Suddenly, he noticed a mark on her neck and leaned to whisper. Nara asked what he was doing. Instead of answering, he sniffed her neck. Shocked, she thought he was smelling her. But Woo pulled back, clutching his face. He stared into her eyes, saying it was a familiar scent. Nara, confused, asked what smell. She noticed nothing unusual. Woo said no more and left. Nara stood, sneaker in hand, bewildered. Her friends swarmed, asking what he'd said, calling her lucky. She couldn't shake his words, wondering if she truly smelled odd but detected nothing. Leaning on a tree to put on her sneaker, she didn't notice a substance transfer from her hand to the bark. Unaware, Nara had just 4 hours left. The liquid on the tree morphed into a creature. The next day, Nara sat in class, fixated on Woo, who'd humiliated her yesterday. She noted Namjin Woo's athletic prowess and striking looks, exuding a unique aura that outshone others. Even upperclassmen were drawn to him. Girls flocked, chanting his name. They swooned over his note-taking, praising his focused gaze. He was a local celebrity, but closer inspection revealed a different side. Woo scribbled in his notebook, suddenly blurting that sausages were great. Nara overheard, thinking he was odd. He had quirky habits. At the same tree, Woo grumbled that the menu changed. He'd planned on a sprouted soy salad for lunch, calling it a bit sad. Nara, behind the tree, watched. She noted he wasn't talking to her. Woo often spoke to himself. In the next class, the teacher warned latecomers would sort garbage. On-time students were dismissed. Nara, late, had to haul trash to the recycling center. Woo spotted her and approached. She asked if he wanted something. He mentioned a smell from her. Surprised, she asked what smell. Furious, Nara snapped. Was he saying she stank again? Woo calmly said it was the smell of a fox. Shocked, she demanded to know what he meant. He pointed to the birthmark on her neck, a fox curse. With 5 seconds until her fated death, Nara recalled her mother's tales of eerie rabbit fox stories. Dropping her bag in terror, she stammered, "What curse? What's that? Is it real?" Woo grabbed her hand, urging her to wait. With 3 seconds left, he asked if she truly didn't know. In pain, Nara cried she didn't. She demanded to know what it was. A wall collapsed nearby. A truck barreled toward her, set to crush her. Terrified, she saw a strange creature on the driver's face. Woo, seeing her frozen, leaped to save her from the truck. Safe, Nara looked up, asking what happened. Woo, silent, approached the truck. Angry, he wanted to explain, but Nara interrupted, asking what was going on. Seeing a man on the ground, she asked if it was her, if she was dead. Woo slapped her face, shouting for her to snap out of it, hitting and yelling to open her eyes. Nara, watching him strike her, called him a creep. Then she saw the creature controlling the man in the truck. Its shell began decomposing before her eyes. The creature spoke, saying it had waited long, its years of languor now over. Nara, trembling, asked what it was. It declared the huntress's descendant was finally 17. It was time to consume her soul. Nara, wide-eyed, gasped, "My soul?" The creature lunged, its ghastly shell slowly enveloping her. Nara could do nothing at this point and screamed at her mother to save her. But suddenly, Wu engaged the creature in battle and attacked the creature with his bare fists. The creature didn't realize what had happened. Wu looked. He destroyed the creature and caught the girl. Nara asked in surprise, "She's dead, isn't she? Does he see her?" Wu replied that he could see her clearly. Yu immediately flipped her upside down. Nara asked him what he was doing. The guy replied to keep her still. Oh suddenly jumped into the air with her unexpectedly and slammed into the dead Nara with her body. After this, Nara came to her senses and opened her eyes. Wu asked her how she was. Did she come to her senses? But Nara could not answer him and slowly closed her eyes. At that time, the being, she heard him tell her it was a nuisance. And why was he interrupted? Nara heard his voice and asked, "Interrupted?" The creature answered her that the next time they met, he would surely kill her. Nara woke up screaming for him to leave her alone after that. She remembered everything and asked, "What was that?" She took a little breather and thought that she had just dreamed it. It was only a bad dream. She looked around and wondered where she was now. And it certainly wasn't her room. And whose house is this, anyway? But suddenly, she heard a voice like someone asking Wu if he had come yet. And where did he get lost? Nara immediately thought, is this really Jin Wu's house? But the voice behind the door kept getting closer, telling the guy that he had bought the curry. And was he at his place? Nara was very frightened and realized that she must not be seen. And what would she have to say? And how would she explain to her why she was here? Nara immediately saw the closet and jumped right in. But the man was asking where was Wu missing? And when he calls for him, one must answer. Nara immediately realized that it was W.S. mother and she was very scared right now. The mother went into the room and said with surprise that he wasn't here. And that's very strange, Wu's mother said. But Nara at that moment saw something else, for it was a tigress. And she didn't understand how it could be. Tigress said that someone was here. Nara was sitting quietly in the closet at this point, trying not to even make an extra sound. Nara looked from the open door to the room and thought, "Tiger?" But suddenly Mother Wu looked in the closet and found her. Tigress saw the girl sitting in the closet and slowly walked away, asking how could this happen? Nara was still reeling the whole time and thought, where in the world could a talking tiger come from? Or maybe it's still a dream. But what is it? Suddenly Wu appeared in front of him and opened the closet doors. Nara became very frightened and started screaming in fear. She immediately went into the depths of things. Wu asked her what she was doing. Nara heard his voice and told him to be careful. There's a tiger roaming around here. Wu asked in surprise, a tiger? Wu replied that it was impossible. Nara said no. She saw it with her own eyes. Suddenly, she saw a little tiger cub behind the guy. Nara told him to look. What a tiger cub. It's a tiger cub, isn't it? And there's got to be a big one around here somewhere. But Wu was very surprised and told her it wasn't. She was mistaken, and it's a cat. Isn't that right, Meow? The boy asked. The tiger cub immediately changed her expression and roared her cute little roar. Wu asked the girl if she could see. Nara asked with surprise, is that a cat? She had never seen such a breed before. But suddenly a woman came in and asked her, is she a Wu girl? The woman asked with interest, Jin Wu brought home a girl? That's certainly interesting. It was Kim Oran, Jin Wu's mother. Wu replied to his mother that it was just a classmate. Nara was surprised to see Jin Wu's mother in front of her, and she thought that maybe she just wasn't fully awake earlier. And yes, talking tigers don't exist. More importantly, his mother is very beautiful. Nara came to her senses a little and said hello to her. But Kim immediately saw the mark on her neck and glared. Kim said her son brought an interesting friend. What was her name? The girl replied that her name was Nara. Wu said she had other things to do, so she had to go home. Kim asked, really? Nara replied that she had to go. Wu said she had to go too. But suddenly Kim said she couldn't. Let her have lunch with them before she left. You can't just let a precious guest go, It's rude. Suddenly, someone shouted from downstairs that they were home too. Kim said that his brothers had just arrived. The guy asked immediately, "Why is everyone in Jen Woo's room?" The other brother asked in surprise, "Do they have a guest?" The older brother was 27 years old, and his name was Han, and he worked in an office. And Lee Han-do was 18 years old, and he was in his second year of high school. Nara was very surprised to see a familiar face and asked Woo, "Do Sunbae is his brother?" The boy replied that he was. Nara remembered that she'd heard a glimpse of a boy from second year who was aiming to become an actor, but she'd only seen him once so far, and then from afar. And now that he's standing in front of her, she sees that he's unrealistically handsome. It's people like him that make celebrities. Kim told everyone to go downstairs. Nara will have dinner with him too, right? The girl said yes. Sitting down at the big table, Nara ate, but in her heart, she felt very uncomfortable. And Woo's mother is just looking at her. Do Sunbae hasn't even touched his food and is staring at the table. And most importantly, why is the cat eating at the table too? She knows only Jen Woo here, but he is silent and not in a hurry to defuse the situation. But maybe they'll let her go home. Not only Woo, but his whole family is very strange. Han asked her, "Is her name Nara? Let her not be shy and eat in peace." Nara looked surprised and said yes. And at that moment, she felt someone speak to her. This guy is the epitome of angelic goodness. Suddenly, she saw that a feather had landed on his shoulder. Nara walked over and told her older brother that he had a feather stuck to his clothes. Han immediately, "Just where?" Nara tried to pull it out and said there it was. Kim knew immediately that things were bad. You immediately saw at that moment shouted at her not to touch it. But Nara didn't listen and pulled Han's wings by the feather. Nara was greatly surprised and asked what it was. Han was in pain, and with a shriek, he pulled his wings outward. Nara, seeing him fly into the air, didn't understand anything and asked how could this be? Nara immediately thought that it was a man with wings, or maybe it's an angel. But after that, he immediately turned into a rooster. Khan transformed into his true form and stood in front of the girl. Nara looked at him and asked, "Rooster?" Khan picked up his glasses and said loudly that he had been burned. Nara became very frightened and started shouting that the man had turned into a bird. W was sitting in his seat at this time with the realization that this shouldn't have happened and said they screwed up. Nara asked Woo, "What is it?" Woo asked back, "And she can't see for herself?" "It's a rooster." Nara said that's not what she's asking. But suddenly, Woo choked and said, "Oh, feathers. Can I not turn at the table? It's all on his feathers now." Han replied as if he wanted to. His transformation had been removed. How did she even do that? Nara asked, and she did. Kim said it was because she was a descendant of a hunter. Everyone was immediately surprised and asked with surprise, "Descendant of a hunter?" Nara asked, "What does that mean?" Suddenly the kitten asked that she could then no longer pretend to be a cat. Nara was greatly surprised and said he was going there too. Suddenly Tigger opened his head and the baby's head showed. Suddenly the tiger cub turned into a baby and unable to hold on to the chair, she collapsed to the ground. The girl stood up and showed height, said she fell. Kim told Ree to hide her tail. Ree looked at it and said it was almost perfect. Kim replied, that's why she tells them to eat more garlic. Do asked, how can you eat more of it? Garlic salad, fish with garlic arrows, pickled garlic pie, and he's so sick of it. Du said he was sick of the taste. It's just disgusting. Terrible combination of ingredients and spices. He doesn't even know what could be worse than that garlic flavor. No zest in the dishes, no savory flavor. It's an outrage, an abuse of his language. It's hard for him to even call it food. Just looking at it already upsets him. Nara has noticed that Du has a distaste for food, and that's incredibly fine for her. Kim asked what else is cranky. Lim just eat. But Du replied that he didn't want any. But suddenly Kim looked at him angrily and told him to eat. But Du replied again that he wouldn't. After saying that, Kim started to show her ability and asked him, he won't? Kim suddenly picked up and spat in his face. Du was surprised and immediately realized it was misophonia. Nara was greatly surprised and couldn't understand why she did that. But at this time she got very angry and said it was filthy. It was a terrible feeling for him. and suddenly he began to transform into his true form. Du turned into a pig and said that Kim had dirted him. He wouldn't stop and destroyed everything in his path. He then looked at the girl and, tucking his head into his plate, began to eat everything in front of him. Du began to shout for joy that it was delicious. Nara looked at him and couldn't recognize him. He was the object of everyone's envy. A cold and beautiful young man whose radiance can be seen with the naked eye. This Du Sunbae turned out to be a pig, and her eyes don't deceive her. Whichever way you look at it, he's a pig. Du starts screaming for more. He wants more. Kim saw him lick all the plates and said he likes everything now. How does she see it? But Du turned out to be a pest and lowered his head and replied that he didn't have any at all, and it doesn't taste good to him. She treats her like a pig. Nara didn't understand his words and saw that he really was a pig. Du said he couldn't help himself. How was it possible to spit in his face? If it wasn't for that, then he wouldn't have been exposed. Han said it was right. Why did she feel the need to invite her to have dinner with them? The girl also said that the worst was Brother Wu. He didn't even give her a choice and forced her to pretend to be a cat. Kim listened to them all and told them to shut up now and turned into a tiger after that. Nara realized that what was in Wu's room was not a dream. There was a real tiger right in front of her. Kim told them to behave themselves in front of the guest. Properly. Do they understand her? When are they going to become human beings? But suddenly Nara took out her phone and started filming them. Kim saw all this and didn't realize it first. They all turned on her at once and told her to remove it now. Nara was frightened and replied that they should forgive her. Nara asked, "Are they going to eat her now?" Kim was surprised at that and asked, "Why would they eat her?" So Kim thought about it and said that it seemed worth clarifying the situation. She asked her if she knew the myth of Dangun. Nara replied that yes, he did. Huang-un, who came down from heaven, ruled the human world. One day, a bear and a tiger came to him and said they wanted to become human beings. He replied that if they sat in a dark cave for 100 days and ate only wormwood and garlic, they could become human. The tiger couldn't stand it and ran away, but the bear endured and became human. Khan said that people only know one side of the story. Kim continued that there were other animals in this cave and suggested that they introduce themselves to their guests properly. There were many animals in that cave that ate the sacred wormwood and garlic given by the god. Though they failed in the end, they all tried their best to pass the god's test. And they're the descendants of those beasts that failed to become human. Wu wondered if it was worth going into detail. How would she deal with it now? He said she was just a classmate. Nara asked Wu, "Is he a human?" But the guy didn't answer anything and just smiled. Nara asked, "Or is he a beast?" Everyone was very surprised and asked her what. Han started laughing and said he was totally confused right now. He asked, "Are they being treated like animals?" Du replied that of course he was human. Du asked what was the question, or did he say animals can talk like humans? Maybe she's holding him for a pig too? Nara realized that was the problem. Han said that it's not appearance that defines a person. Though in his case, no matter how you look at it, it's total piggishness, whether she agrees or not. Suddenly Nara said it was not for him to say, and called him a rooster. But Khan did not allow himself to be offended and said that she would make him a rooster. Wu said, of course he was human. Nara looked at her and asked, really? Wu asked her, does she think otherwise? Kim asked, are she humans or beasts pretending to be humans? Kim asked, and what was she? Just a regular high school girl? Or a hunter? Let her not think but feel. It just depends on how she looks at it. If she sees it as the meeting of the beast and the hunter, then their meeting is an evil fate. But if she sees a man looking at a man, then it is fate for them. Kim asked her what kind of future she wanted to enter, evil fate or destiny, but she stared at her stain on her neck. Kim said the bloody foxes. She immediately gave her a paper. Nara took it and asked what it was. Kim replied that since she wasn't dead and continued to live while wearing the curse of the fox, her tomorrow would be nothing like the days before. And when she needs them, have her tape it to the door, and this talisman will bind them to her. Nara asked with surprise, will she tie it up? Wu told the girl that it was getting dark outside. Let her go back home. Nara went outside and asked exactly how she would tie them up. but she immediately threw it out of her hand. Running away, they said it didn't matter. She didn't want to mess with it at all. At this time, the guys were looking at her and saw everything. Han asked if it was okay to let her go like that. Kim replied not to worry. She will come back. But Han said that somehow it didn't seem like that at all. Kim smiled and replied that she would definitely come back. She wouldn't want to die at the hands of a fox again. Nara ran a few blocks and said she was alive. But suddenly a piece of paper dropped from the sky and went straight into her backpack. Kim walked into the house and said she was here and a little late. Lying on the couch, she realized it had been a cheap day. She was hit by a truck, a fox almost took her soul, and she had experienced death and then resurrection, plus people turned into animals. And she now hoped that when she woke up, it would all turn out to be a dream. But when she opened her eyes, she said she couldn't sleep. The next morning, Mother came into the room and asked, "Isn't she going to school?" Nara opened her eyes and asked, "What time is it?" When she saw the clock, she started yelling that she was late. Her mother replied that since she was late anyway, maybe she could at least have breakfast. But Nara replied that she couldn't. As she walked out to the road, she waited for the bus and hoped she would catch it. Nara said she had overslept and hadn't eaten, hadn't washed her face, and had her shoes on. It was a typical morning for her. But suddenly coming to a stop, she raised her head and saw a strange creature sitting on the guy's neck. The creature asked her what she was staring at. Nara didn't realize what was happening and thought she was hallucinating. But what was it? She opened her eyes wide and saw the ghost's hair swooping in front of her. And it seemed to her that she was the only one who could see him. The creature told her not to look at her boyfriend or she would gouge out all her eyes. Nara replied that she couldn't see, and now she has to pretend she can't see. She said her throat was dry from running. She immediately took out her bottle. She took it to drink. But suddenly the being told her that first let her open the bottle and then let her drink. Nara was not herself at all and was even a little confused. The creature asked her if she would get on the bus. Nara was badly confused and remembered the words about this being the morning when everything changed for her. Nara had skipped her school all day and saw everything around her differently because the ghosts were all around her, and she only sees them. Nara ran all the way to the school, and as she entered, she thought, they didn't follow her, did they? When she entered the classroom, she suddenly saw a strange teacher. The teacher looked at her strangely and asked who it was. Nara was very frightened and looked around and saw that the classroom was filled with ghosts. Her friend yelled at her to come in quickly, but Nara was really scared and just closed the door in front of her. Nara realized that wherever she went, whatever door she opened, they were everywhere. She was in another world, and now her life as a teenager is completely ruined. But in math class, the teacher wrote an example on the board and asked, "Who wants to solve this problem?" Nara didn't understand what was happening to her and wondered why they were all surrounding her. But suddenly the creature told him not to say that high school students couldn't solve this simple problem. Nara decided to write the example on her notebook and solve it. The creature said that at this rate, Josian might not even become Josian. The ghost said she would definitely not be able to go to university. But the ghost of the builder also held up and said that he died while he was building this school. Why did he have to die if the kids don't want to learn anyway? But the baby monster suggested that they eat better. You can't skip a meal. At this time, the builder was saying that she had a bug again. Nara was wondering why this was happening to her. The construction worker asked Naru, "Is that her?" He heard her and hit a truck, and she's tougher than that truck. The ghost walked over and asked while deciding how many bugs she had. She was a little hurt after all. Nara was trying to solve her example, and at the same time thinking, why are there more and more of them? The ghost spoke at this point as to why she was shaking so much. Was she sick? Or maybe she could see them. The ghost got in her face and was telling them to look at her. Isn't that suspicious, is it? Nara was in a sweat the whole time and wondered if they had guessed. But suddenly Wu stood up in front of the whole class. The teacher was greatly surprised and asked him where he was going. You didn't answer anything and just walked over to Nara. Wu didn't say anything to her and just stared at her. But suddenly the ghosts were also thinking and didn't understand what he was doing. He took out all the ghosts in front of her in one fell swoop. Nara was surprised and immediately realized what he was doing. We used his powers against them and tried to just squeeze them. But the ghost shouted at him not to push them. He just took them all in one pile and threw them out the door. And as he closed the door, he turned around and looked at the girl. After class, Nara told Wu if they could talk for a while. She needs to speak up right away. But the creature by the tree was telling them to eat first and then go. But Nara was very frightened and hid behind him. Wu said, "Today for lunch bulgogi, radish kimchi, and soybean paste soup. Don't worry." The ghost asked, "Are you sure?" And what a relief for him. W said he calls her Mrs. Lunchbox. She pesters him to eat. And this is Mr. Kim, a worker who died while building their school. Kim always said he built the school. And Teacher Park has become the guardian spirit of the school because he likes to watch the students read. It's so adorable. He said there was another world out there besides what she saw every day. Well, they seem nice to him. After all, they're just like people. There are good and bad ghosts. And then there are really evil ghosts. Nara said, just like that creepy fox that tried to take her soul. But suddenly Wu rested his head against her neck and remained silent. Nara asked him what he was doing. Yu cleaned up and replied that he didn't know why that lich was targeting her. But she's not safe for now. You can find her by smell alone. Nara asked, does she still smell? Wu replied that she had the talisman he got yesterday, right? Nara asked, the talisman? Wu replied that he was even a little surprised that her mother had given it to her so easily. Nara asked, was it that valuable? Nara remembered that she had thrown it away and answered him that she thought it was still at home. Wu said that if she wanted to live, let her drag him with her now. Nara thought she was in big trouble. Would he be really mad if she said she threw it away? When Nara got home, she said she was here. Nara started sniffing and said it smelled good in here. The mother was happy to see her. The girl replied that her mother had made soybean paste soup, which smelled very wonderful. Her mother told her to go wash up before she sat down to eat. But outside at that time, creatures hid behind the garbage cans and sniffed the air. The monster was out hunting and said it smelled really good. She walked around the room like she was at home. But he had his sights set on something else, and walking through the walls he aimed at Nara, who was in the bathroom. He's been saying all along that it smells really good in here, and he can't stop in front of such elegance. Nara started to wash her face and saw nothing. But when she heard something, she called the monster uncle and told him to go away. She chased the monster into the kitchen with her fists. Her mother stood in front of the stove and said that her memory was failing her. Her mother immediately told Nara that she would go buy some tofu. Let her watch the fire for now. The monster heard his mother's words for Nara to keep an eye on the fire and took over, and immediately stood in front of the stove. At this time, Nara came out of the bathroom with an exasperated face. She didn't even notice the monster standing behind the stove. And going straight into Uncle's room, she told him to knock well next time. But Uncle was watching a video on his computer at the time, and when he saw his niece, he immediately pulled the wires so she couldn't see or hear anything. Uncle looked at her and didn't know what to say to her, and he told her to knock next time. Nara went upstairs and said it was revenge. The monster heard the words and asked, knocking? At this point, Nara started laughing and replied to him that he doesn't do it himself and tells her. But suddenly the monster came up behind her, and Nara, seeing it, was very frightened. The monster repeated the words, knock. Nara in her head immediately noticed that he was different from the other ghosts. She immediately started running away from him. Closing the door to her room, she stood holding the door so he wouldn't come in, and thought, what is this? Suddenly she remembered Wu's words as he said that there were both good and bad ghosts. Suddenly Nara thought it was that bad ghost, but suddenly he came to the door and started knocking. Nara said he couldn't come in, but the phantom turned into a living creature and began to walk through the door. The ghost came through completely and said it smelled very good. But suddenly the necklace that stood over the door touched the ghost. It completely latched onto the ghost and kept it from going any further. The ghost suddenly turned around and glared. And Nar realized at that moment that the voodoo necklace was really working. At that moment, the ghost got angry and tried to attack her. But Nara wasn't confused and saw the donated dumbbells standing nearby. She grabbed them and shouted that she was banishing him. She performed the sacred cross of the dumbbells. And after that she realized that they were very heavy and fell to the floor with them. But the ghost didn't leave and immediately grabbed her by the throat, severely blocking her airway. But suddenly Nara grabbed her bag, and out of fear, she started screaming at her uncle to save her. But my uncle was watching his girls at this time and didn't even hear anything going on around him. But suddenly Nara's spirit ghost had rid of her body and was ready to devour her. The girl didn't even realize the danger she was in. Nara saw her body fall to the ground and said that she was not in her body again. The ghost at this time only said that he needed to eat her fresh soul. But Nara told the ghost, who said she could be eaten. She immediately broke away from him and fell into her body. Coming to her senses, she grabbed her bag and smacked the ghost in the face, telling him to disappear. The ghost didn't expect this from her and collapsed to the ground. All her supplies, and even the map Kim had given her, came out her bag. She saw the map with her own eyes and realized it was the very same amulet, but she remembers throwing it away. But how did it get here? But she remembered Kim's words as telling her that once she stuck it on the door, she would be able to contact them in case of trouble. She immediately looked at the door, but fell to the floor, seeing the ghost lying there. She realized that she couldn't even get close to it because of him. Nara immediately picked up her sharp objects and yelled at him to stay back, and threw it at his head. But suddenly sharp objects entered his head, and out of anger, he started growling and headed towards the girl. Grabbing her, he leaned her against the wall and started to take her soul. But she immediately saw that there was a closet with a door next to it. The ghost approached her with his big mouth and said she was his food. But Nara answered him not to dream. She would not let him devour her, and he's going to be in huge trouble. She took the amulet in her hands and told him to look, and pinned it to the door. The ghost looked toward the door and saw the map. But that didn't stop him, and he continued his business. Nara was very frightened and said it didn't work. After these words, the amulet began to work, and very strange light beams appeared that looked like a circuit board. The amulet opened completely, and a light appeared from the closet. Then suddenly a hand came out of it and grabbed the ghost. It was Wu. He had come to her rescue. In a moment, he looked at her and didn't even say a word. Nara got really scared and started screaming at the guy to save her. Wu immediately showed his abilities. Wu didn't waste any time and cut with his electrical energy the hands of the ghost who was holding the girl. When he cut both of the ghost's arms, he began to sob with pain, for he felt very ill, and immediately afterwards he grew new hands. He tried to hit the guy right away, but Wu managed to dodge and lowered himself to Nara. He asked her if she had done her Korean homework. Nara was greatly surprised and asked what. Wu answered her to help him with his homework. But Nara didn't care about that and started shouting to him that the ghost was behind her. But Wu was faster and dodged the attack and launched his own. Wu didn't play with him for long and, plowing him to the ground, raised his foot above his head and destroyed him. Nara didn't realize what had happened, but after that, Ghost immediately got up and was still angry. But Wu wasn't afraid and took it all on. He was ready to fight him to the end and destroy him. Launching his electrical attack, he cut the ghost into small molecular pieces that immediately shattered. Nara was very frightened, and seeing everything with her own eyes, she asked him what was it. Wu replied that they were all souls that had been swallowed up by the thistles. Suddenly, she began to hear the spirits shouting that they were all free. Nara watched it all and said that they were disappearing. Wu replied that when a thistle eats a soul, it turns into a ball like that. Nara asked in surprise, "Thistle?" Wu saw that the ghost was still angry and, taking out a vessel, told him to get in it. After opening the lid of the vessel, Ghost immediately climbed into the ghost vessel using the attraction of energy. Nara saw the whole process and asked, "Is that it? Will he not appear again?" Wu showed the vessel and answered that yes. Wu said Thistle is caught. He doesn't sense the presence of others here, and immediately went back into the closet. Nara was surprised and told him the door was the other way. But Wu left the same way he came in. Nara initially didn't understand anything and ran to look in the closet, yelling the guy's name. Looking in the closet with her own eyes, she asked where did he go, and she went looking for it herself. Suddenly, she found a passage in the closet that led to the guy's room. When she opened the door, she was surprised. After that, she immediately looked to see if anyone could see her, and if her mother had come to her room. Suddenly, Wu appeared and asked what she was doing. Nara didn't understand anything and asked how was that possible. This is his room, right? Wu answered her that it is the amulet of the rabbit hole, and it connects the doors. And Nara asked, is that what the connection meant? Unexpectedly, Kim came in and greeted her. She asked Nair how was it for her, and how did the ghost hunt go? But Nara looked at her and let her tears flow, answering that she was so scared. And why is this happening to her? Wu showed the vessel and said that he had caught it. Kim replied that she had known that Thistle would go looking for her. Nara asked why. Kim replied that because she was tasty prey. The Thistle has a great appetite and eats anything that gets in its way. He eats nonstop and eats. And her soul, which the fox couldn't eat, for a Thistle, wandering in darkness, it was like a light at the end of the tunnel he was going for. And she's prey that any ghost is allowed to eat. That's what the mark on her neck means. She reeks of the curse so much that Thistle, feeling it every day, has finally found it. And Fox, having regained his strength, would soon appear as well. Nara asked, would they always haunt her? What should she do? Kim answered that she would rather die, because it's easier that way. Kim looked at her eyes and said she was poor. Suddenly Nara thought hard about the words about dying. She realized she hadn't even gone to university and she'd never had a relationship. 17 years of wasted time and just die? Kim told her not to worry so much. Jin Wu will protect her from now on. Wu didn't understand anything at first and asked his mother, is he? Kim replied that it was correct. The boy asked, but why him? Kim replied that the rabbit hole was in his room. Wu remembered that the connection was in her room and said that it pissed him off. But suddenly Kim looked at him very angrily and asked him if he was sure he was refusing. And suddenly Nara thought that if you think about it, Wu had already fought a fox, and today he had caught a thistle. Nara realized that if Wu protected her, she would live. She bowed and thanked him for his help. Kim said there's nothing free in this world. She knows that, doesn't she? Nara asked. She wouldn't ask for her soul in return for help, would she? Kim was surprised and asked what her soul was for. In exchange for her protection, let her bring her the Dangun relic. Nara asked, what is that? Kim replied that her grandmother was a famous fox hunter, and she had a ring for Dangun's bowstring. Let her bring her this sacred relic of Dangun. Nara said that her grandmother died a long time ago. She knows nothing of this ring. Kim said that the sacred relic of Dangun always recognizes its owner, and pretty soon it would be back in her hands. And that is its purpose. Kim asked her if they had made a deal. Nara realized she had no reason to refuse. Nara said she didn't want to die. She went home and asked her mother what kind of person her grandmother was. Her mother replied that her mother didn't like to talk about her and didn't tell her anything. And she doesn't know. She has nothing to say. She didn't see her for 6 months, and so every year. Nara now realized in her head that she was off hunting foxes. She was a hunter, after all. Nara looked at the picture and thought, where is this sacred relic of Dangun? And decided to go to bed. Nara decided to change her clothes, and in a moment she looked in her closet and decided not to continue doing so because he could walk in at any time. Nara said, how is she supposed to live now? The next morning, she was packing her bag when Wu walked in and told her to let him copy her Korean homework. But Wu was cheeky and entering her room said he would take it himself. Nara said nothing and let him do it. Suddenly Nara yelled at him not to enter again without permission. She's really pissed off. At night Kim sat in her room and looked at the vessel. Suddenly something began to happen, for suddenly there was a breeze. Looking to the side, she saw a guy standing there asking Poon Biku if he had been taught to use doors instead of going in through windows. Beck replied that it makes common sense. She's talking like a human already. Has she forgotten who she is already? Kim replied that in humans, it's called good manners. Beck said that if she wanted to be a good person so badly, why didn't she work harder to clean up the world? Or did she think that one was enough? After all, there wasn't much time left. If she didn't do enough good deeds before Dangun returned, she would live the rest of her life as an animal, never becoming a full-fledged human being. At night, Wu couldn't sleep and started playing his guitar. But suddenly, Nara heard the sounds of the guitar, and she got up and looked in the closet. At this time, Wu was enjoying the music and didn't even remember that he had the door to Nara's place. Nara tried to do something to keep from hearing the sounds, but she was having no luck. She went into the closet and said she was asleep. Was he out of his mind? Did he see what time it was? But she didn't even knock, and when she opened the closet door, she saw W jumping on the bed of goals and playing. Nara didn't continue and tried to slowly walk away. But Wu saw this and told her not to enter without permission. Nara was very angry and replied that he should look at himself than judge others. Nara said she was already going to bed, so let him be quiet, pop star. Wu replied that it's actually rock. But after a while, Nara asked him if he was asleep. But she heard nothing in reply and decided to thank him for saving her. But Wu heard everything in the meantime and pretended that he was asleep and didn't hear her. He went back to sleep. But in the meantime, Nara imagined that there was now a burrow in her closet. And now there was Jen Wu. The next morning, they came to school together, and the students were surprised to see the two of them together. The girl asked her friend what was the big deal that she froze. The friend replied that Nara and Wu came in together. The girls were all surprised and asked, "Are they dating?" The ghost at this time also looked and asked, "How is this possible?" In the morning, Nara shouted to her parents that she had left for school. And in front of her house, Jen Wu was already waiting for her. Nara asked, "Is he waiting for her?" But Wu was very angry and replied that they should go already faster. At recess at school, the girls asked her what kind of relationship they were in, and why are they coming to school together for the third day in a row. Nara realized that because she didn't want to be eaten by the thistle. He's after her, and she can't tell them the truth. Nara answered them that it was more of a punishment than something good. The girl asked what was the matter. Nara got really mad and replied that they weren't dating. The girls laughed and said they didn't believe her. Nara said she was being serious with them. And even the ghost came up and said she was lying. Nara kept hearing after that she was lying and she was sick of it all already. But Ghost saw Wu in the hallway and looked at him strangely. The ghost told him that he broke her heart. She couldn't get him because she's indecisive and he's already turned his back on her here. Wu was greatly surprised and asked what was the matter with her. The ghost replied that he had messed with her head. And after that, she went to the back room and sat alone in the dark. The ghost said that Nara was a bastard, and it would be better if she died. Suddenly, an unfamiliar voice asked her if she wanted help. The ghost asked who he was, but the stranger replied that he would help her. The ghost asked how he was going to do that, but the stranger replied that he could kill this girl for her. The ghost asked how would he kill her. The stranger replied that it was easy, and going outside, he devoured her and said that this is how he would do it. And eventually, he turned into a monster that was ready to kill Nara. But at one point, he said that wasn't enough, and he wanted to eat more. When he looked outside, he saw that there was a ghost sitting under a tree, and now he has to eat it. He turned into a ghost, which he ate and approached another ghost. At this time, the ghost kept asking everyone to go eat. But the ghost opened his big mouth and said he was going to get full now. And at once he swallowed the little ghost. In class, Nara sensed that something was wrong. She thought it was strange that the school was so quiet today. In parting, the teacher said that they had done a great job today, and the meeting will take place tomorrow. He asked her if she saw any ghosts. He often wandered around the city to see if he could see anything interesting. Wu said they should go home, for he was tired. And Nara answered him to look, for Granny Dasharak was not here today. Wu looked closely at the tree and was greatly surprised by it, and immediately made a circle around himself. But after that, he put Nara there. She asked him what it was. Wu replied that as long as she stood in that circle, the thistle would not see her. Wu told her not to leave the circle until he got back. He's going to go check the neighborhood. Nara was very surprised and asked, "Is he serious?" Wu immediately entered the school in search of his ghost that he saw every day. He looked all over the school and went into the restroom and said he could feel him hiding. And opening the door, he yelled out that he was caught. But from what he saw, he didn't even know it could happen, because all the ghosts were gathered in one place. W asked what they were doing here. The teacher replied to keep him quiet and told him that there was an evil thistle wandering around the school. Let it be careful. Wu asked with surprise, Thistle? The ghosts didn't answer him and started waving their heads. But suddenly a thistle rained down on them from the vent and swallowed them all up in one go. The ghost began to scream, while Wu was greatly surprised, for the size of the thistle was several times larger than him. Thistle turned into a fox and asked where Nara was. After all, he would find her anyway. Nara had been standing in a circle the whole time, asking how long she should wait here for him. Wu looked at Thistle, and the phone wouldn't stop ringing. Thistle started sniffing around and said that the scent of this girl was gone so suddenly. Just a little while ago, he could still smell her. Thistle asked the guy where he hid it. Wu looked at his body and saw Uncle Kim's hat, Scholar Park, Granny's dosharak. He got really pissed off and had to show his true colors. Thistlethwaite told the guy that he's always getting in his way. He wasn't interested in other people, but if he wants to stay alive, let him tell me where she is. But Wu wouldn't talk to him and began to launch his attacks. Wu said he should have let him go back then, but the ghosts inside the thistle were saying how much it hurt them. Teacher also shouted that they were in pain as well. But suddenly at the moment of attack, Wu stopped and asked, Mr. Park? Teacher Pack replied, once more, they were in pain. Wu was a little distracted and didn't see the thistle strike from his tail. Teacher Pack tried to go outside, but the thistle wouldn't let him go and pushed him back in, and laughed at the guy at the same time. Thistle said he ate them so fast, they didn't even have time to digest. I said, is that it? Wu gained enough speed for his attack, and stuck his fist into Thistle's chest. Wu wasn't ready to give up and began to destroy him as he continued his crushing attacks. Suddenly, Thistle didn't hold back and suddenly spat out Teacher Park. When he saw him, he was surprised that he was still alive. Teacher Park gave Wu the finger that he was fine and had done well, and immediately disappeared from sight. Thistle said they're old ghosts and not very tasty. So what's the difference? Wu realized that after swallowing so many souls at once, he should have gone insane by now and turned into a blob of slime. And this fox is no ordinary demon. Thistle said he's feeling better now. So, will they do it again? Wu wasn't scared of anything and replied that he had only tried it. He would beat him until he spit everyone out. But suddenly, a second monster appeared behind him and decided to attack him from behind. But Wu saw it coming and dodged it immediately. Wu thought with wonder, a toilet? What is this, an illusion? Thistle said to the guy that it turned out he was a good dodger too. Wu asked, are those foxtails? Suddenly Thistle replied to look under his feet, and suddenly he saw that another monster had appeared below him. Wu had time to react and jumped into the air before the ghost could eat him. But at that moment, a thistle also appeared above him. Wu dodged all attacks and even tried to make an attack. And Thistle didn't expect that and got hit in the head. Wu didn't stop there, and each time he hit harder and harder. Thistle was even in a lot of pain. But suddenly Thistlethwaite used something, and a portal appeared behind W, which he found very strange. Nara was sitting in a circle at this time and asked why he wasn't answering. She's worried. Nara suddenly heard something going on in the school on the top floor and shouted his name, for she was scared. Thistle said he was aiming straight for his liver, but I think he missed. Suddenly, he realized that Wu wasn't human. Thistlethwaite told the guy he was a beast like him. So why would he protect some human being? Why is he stopping him from getting his revenge? And is he trying to play nice in front of the humans? Thistle told W that he was a beast. No matter how much they loved them, no matter how much they devoted all of themselves to them. As soon as they found out what they were, their reaction was always the same. Disgust and fear. And does he really think she'll be the same? Because he knows the answer to that. He still continues to wag his tail at people looking for their love. And he can also hurt. Wu told him it was none of his business. Aren't they all equal? He chose this path himself, but it's different from him. Wu clenched his fist and told him to attack. After all, he was about to beat him to death. Thistle was angry and said that he was a bastard. Wu didn't sit still for long and ran up to deliver his crushing fist attack. Nara saw a light appear at the top and tried to step out of the circle. But in the moment, she remembered him telling her not to even think about leaving the circle. Nara started to text him, and asked if he was okay. But suddenly, unexpectedly, someone knocked her off her bike lap. Nara came out of the circle and said that she was in a lot of pain. Do saw her and replied that she was asking for forgiveness. Do saw a familiar face and asked, "What is she? And what is she doing here?" Nara looked at the circle and saw that he had erased her. Do asked her what was wrong, and Nara replied that he was a pig. Do was surprised and asked what she said, but Nara's mark began to take effect at once, and Thistle could smell it immediately. Thistlethwaite said that she was caught, and immediately rushed through the wall to the girl. You immediately realized that Nara had stepped out of the circle. Before seeing the black molecule, he was very surprised and asked what it was. Thistle immediately lowered himself in front of them and glared at the girl. Nara saw at once that it was the same fox. Thistle said, "So that's where she is." Nara thought, "Is this really the same fox?" The ghost opened his mouth to eat her and told her to die. Nara couldn't do anything and was ready to say goodbye with her life. But someone helped her at that moment and blocked Thistle. Opening her eyes, she saw Do standing in front of her, who showed his strength and protected her. Thistlethwaite asked, "Didn't it work?" Immediately, she decided to try to break the shell again. Do looked at it and said, "How disgusting," and used his powers. But Thistlethwaite sensed at once that he was doing badly. Do told him that such ugliness should not come close to his beauty, and waving his head showed that he had an inaccessible aura of beauty. Nara was surprised and saw that now was not the time to flaunt her beauty. Thistle asked, "Who the hell is that?" But suddenly Do saw that a small piece of dirt had gotten right into his hand. He immediately looked at it with his intense gaze. Do said he was a bastard. How dare he spit dirt on this sacred body? Wiping his hand, he saw that he had begun to transform. Thistle asked with surprise, "Pig's foot?" Do immediately removed his hand and replied that he had seen nothing. By this point, Wu came in and yelled to his brother to protect Nara. Thistle told them they were trying so hard, and he's amused to watch. But this girl's life. And suddenly he saw that she was gone. He immediately put her on his bike and took her away. Nara asked him, "Will they just leave W there?" Do asked what. When did she have time to sit down? He can't fight him. He doesn't want to turn into a pig. Thistle asked where they were running to. Do was frightened when he heard his voice and answered to get away from him. Nara looked back and yelled at him to pedal faster. Do replied that she was making him go slower. At the turn, Do didn't slow down, and Nara couldn't keep up and was already starting to collapse sideways. But Do heard her screaming and grabbed her by the tie. He told her to hold on tight and called her a ball buster. But in a moment, the fox appeared in front of them, ready to pile on top of them and devour them both. Do was ready to give up, and in a moment he saw how they were already in the fox's mouth. But Wu didn't let that happen and attacked him with his foot. The fox raised his head, for he couldn't swallow them in one go and was interrupted. Do and Nara were both covered in slime. Do felt the dirt on his face and immediately started to turn. He said he wasn't allowed to do that in public. Nara told him that he was getting fatter. Do got angry and replied that he knew without her. Fox said that it turns out this kid isn't human either. Wu saw that and said his brother was a pure idiot. The fox didn't waste any time and pounced on them. But Do started pedaling to save her and his life. But at this time, Nara could only see in front of her a big ass that was turning into a pig. Do started yelling at everyone to get out of the way and disperse. People turned around and were very surprised, not realizing what was happening. Do didn't stop even for a second, but suddenly he saw a mother and child in front of him, on whom he was flying. He tried hard to lean to the side and not hit them. Do only had to turn onto another road and flew out from a great height on his bike along with Nara. Nara saw them flying through the air and jumped up and started screaming in fear that they were going to crash. But Do was experienced and managed to hold on to the steering wheel, but there was a surprise ahead of them that looked like a garbage can. This time his strength was already useless, and he had to crash into the trash cans. But Nara couldn't help herself and flew off the bike. But Do turned completely into a pig and eased the girl's fall and immediately landed on his bike. But Fox kept up and told him it wasn't bad. Do didn't stop and kept pedaling. And by this time came Wu, who was sliding like a lifeguard over the railing. He immediately stood up for the girl and his brother. Du worried for his brother and stopped. But in a moment, Nara felt an intimidating aura. Du told his brother not to start. Wu replied that if they didn't do it now, he would keep running after them. Wu told his brother to fight the fox. Du was surprised and asked him if he was in charge of him now. Fox turned to them and told them to stay out of his way. But Du dodged his first attack and struck with his foot. Wu didn't run away anymore either and set about destroying this fox that was bothering them. Wu was so angry that his energy cut the fox's head in two and flew into the air. But suddenly the fox realized that things were bad, and with his parts he grabbed Nara and immobilized her. The boys were surprised at this turn and watched him take her soul. Nara wondered where she was going. Was she really dying? Wu was very frightened and shouted for him not to do that. The fox almost swallowed the girl's soul and left her to perish. Nara's body emptied, and she slowly fell to the ground. Wu walked over to her body and started screaming her name. Du was furious and said she was dead. But Wu replied that she wasn't dead and don't let him talk nonsense. Du looked and said she looked like she was dead. Wu looked and replied that she was still breathing, but her soul had left her body. Du asked, and where is she? Wu replied that she couldn't have gone far. So he started smashing the tree out of anger, and after that he moved on to the road sign. Du asked him what he was doing. Wu replied that the fox was using his cloaking ability to hide her. Du didn't understand and asked him why he was breaking everything. Wu continued to break things and even got to the point where his fists were bleeding. He couldn't accept that he was going to lose and couldn't save the girl. He wondered where he could have gone. But Nara's soul was flying in black space. Suddenly someone spoke to her. She opened her eyes and asked, "Who is it? Where's she? And is it true that she is dead?" The ghost that had been absorbed by the fox still lived and told her to wake up already. Nara saw her and asked, "The ghost of the maiden?" Kim the ghost replied that she shouldn't be here. Nara looked around and said her uncle was here too. Grandma Ghost also appeared and told her that she should run away from here soon. All the ghosts surrounded her and told her to run. But in a moment, the molecule that held her leg and broke off, and Nara began to fall into the abyss. She didn't realize what was happening and saw an initially dark abyss ahead of her. But suddenly a light suddenly appeared. Going down to another place, she saw some doctor holding a girl who was covered in arrows. The guy tells her girlfriend to forgive him. He can't keep his promise to her. The people who killed her and their baby, he'll tear them all apart. Nara looked and realized it was the fox's memories. On the other side stands her grandmother. Grandma told Fox that he would pay for all his sins. He shouldn't have eaten people's livers. The guy turned into a fox and answered her so that her entire clan would be completely cursed. Nara now realized the reason why Liz wanted to kill her. And Fox's revenge had become her curse. But suddenly she heard her mother yelling at her mother to stop doing that. She can't take it anymore. The mother said that she was taking Nara and they were leaving this house. But Nana asked her daughter not to do that. For if Nara's curse is not lifted, she will die. But Mother asked her to stop saying such things. She was sick of hearing all this nonsense about the curse. She will raise her to be a normal person. And Nara said, after seeing such a thing, she remembered that day when her mother and grandmother had a fight. But aren't these her memories? Why is she seeing them in the fox's memory? But suddenly the fox grabbed her and started laughing. Fox tells her it's because he's been sleeping in her body for all those 17 years. He knows everything that happened to her. She grew up happy and loved by everyone. And if his child had lived, he would have grown up just like her, happy and loved. But he didn't. But suddenly Grandma asked the dog why it was barking. What was the matter? She looked up sharply and asked who was here. Nara started yelling to her grandmother that it was her. She started waving her arms just to see her. Suddenly, Nana asked in surprise Nara. Nara told her grandmother that the fox had devoured her. Grandma was very frightened to see her daughter in such a place. The fox was greatly surprised and asked, "How is this possible? Isn't it his subconscious?" But the girl's mother told her mother that Nara was here. Why is she acting so strange? Nara reached out her grandmother's hand and took hold of it. Her grandmother told her not to let the darkness consume her. Let her fight it. But the moment triggered a ring on the grandmother's hand that used a bright light. Suddenly, Wu and Du noticed that a bright light appeared behind them, and Nara was thrown out of the fox's mouth at that moment. The fox started yelling that this was his territory. That's just not possible. Nara replied that now she knew why he was angry. Nara asked him why he was taking his anger out on her, and she punched Fox in the face with all her might. But Wu was a little smarter, and seeing that Nara had revealed her whereabouts, he managed to grab her hand. Wu hoped it was her, and seeing her soul, he said he found her. But she's unconscious. Wu started yelling her name to wake up. Opening her eyes, Nara immediately said that her grandmother was a fox hunter. Wu was surprised and asked, "Is she talking in her sleep or something?" Suddenly, the rest of the ghost souls started coming out from where Lisa was holding Naru. The ghosts said they got out. At this time, the fox appeared to be very fearful, and his size was reduced to a minimum. Du saw him, immediately took out a vessel and stuck it in there. The fox was yelling at him not to do that. Nara watched the whole process and saw Du place the vile and fearsome fox into the vessel. Du called him a creature and said goodbye. Wu sighed after that and said that they were finally done. Nara turned to him and told him not to hurt her. W lifted her immediately above his head, and because of all the stills, slipped her into his body, which was lying unconscious on the floor. After falling asleep in her body, a bright light suddenly appeared, which seemed very strange to everyone. From such a bright light, no one realized what had just happened at all. They looked at her in surprise. A bright ray appeared above Nara, illuminating everything around her. But she held something in her hand, and she herself did not yet realize what it was. Wu walked up to her and asked her what it was. Nara opened her palm and replied that it was a hunter's quiver. Nara asked him, "Is this it?" Du walked over and said it was a sacred relic of Dangun. This is the first time he's ever seen it in person. Nara asked, "So this is the sacred relic?" After a hard day's work, they all walked home together. After escorting the ghosts to the school where they had been living until now, Nara immediately started waving to them and said goodbye. The ghost, who even she disliked, thanked her for her rescue. On the way home, Nara said she was hungry and offered to go somewhere and eat. After sitting down to eat, W asked what the ring was. Had she had it all along? Nara replied that she hadn't. Nara said her grandmother handed it to her when she was inside the fox. She had somehow seen it. Du was surprised at her words and asked what. Du asked her, did she hit her head? How is that possible? It was a memory, right? Nara answered that she didn't know, but that was just the way it happened. It was a short conversation, but it was so nice to see her grandmother again. Upon arriving home, Kim received the gift and said it was great. Not only had they caught a fox, but they had also brought back a relic. Kim took the relic and said that it was beautiful. It is a sacred relic of Dangun, and it increases the spiritual power of the person using it more than 100 times. Han asked with surprise, 100 times? Du thought that if it was his, he could live peacefully in human form and not worry about unplanned transformations into a pig. Kim said she finally had the Dangun relic in her hands. She immediately put it on her finger. Everyone was surprised and stared at her intently. Kim got angry and asked why nothing was happening. Suddenly the relic began to glow, and at the speed of light, jumped out of Kim's finger and even smacked her in the face. Were the boys surprised and thought she had failed? Did the Danugna relic reject her? The relic fell onto the table immediately afterward and rolled towards Nara. She looked at it and was surprised. Du looked at his mother and said he was sorry. He decided to try on his own finger. But in the moment, a little girl held out her hand and said she wanted to try it too. Khan started laughing and told the kids where they were even going. So he took the ring in his hands and decided to give it a try. Du looked at him strangely and asked, doesn't he know to give way to the younger ones? Han replied that he didn't know that the older ones were supposed to be first. Kim got mad and told him to put it on the table already. It didn't work for her. Do they think it will work for them? Han asked. They'd know if they tried it, wouldn't they? He immediately put it on his finger. It immediately began to glow. Kim was greatly surprised and said it was impossible. Han couldn't help himself and flew into the air with his wings open. But after that, he fell down and turned into a chicken. Kim started laughing and told him to look. But the ring fell out again and came to Nara's hands. Wu walked over and said that it seemed to have found its owner. Nara asked in surprise, "The owner?" Kim was greatly disappointed and thought it was a terrible sight. Nara asked, "And what was so amazing about it?" Nara put it on her finger and said that it wasn't even gold. Suddenly the ring began to shine with a white light. But after a few minutes, the light grew brighter and brighter, and Nara didn't even know what was happening to her now. Suddenly, a strange liquid flew out of the ring in a moment and dumped all over the table. Kim was very surprised and didn't realize what it was. But Wu knew immediately that it was the smell of blood. But Nara opened her eyes and saw that some strange old man in strange clothes had appeared in front of her. The old man said he had been waiting for her and named her the next successor. Nara was frightened and asked who he was. The old man replied that he was the ancestor of the hunters, the spirit of her ancestor. Kim immediately realized that this was the ancestor of the hunters. The old man told her to let him tell her the truth she didn't know. Nara thought, what truth does she not know? The old man said that there were monsters in their world that pretended to be human and wreaked havoc wherever they went. But suddenly the old man turned around and looked at the others who were also sitting at the table and changed his gaze immediately. Nara was very scared and realized that they were about to be caught. She immediately told him to wait. The old man told her that she knew that these animals should not be kept in the house. From now on, she would be the owner of this sacred relic, and also the hunter of those monsters. Nara asked in surprise, "She?" Suddenly, a light suddenly appeared in her hand, which revealed a bow. Kim saw the bow and hoped it couldn't be. Suddenly Nara said she didn't want it. The old man asked why. Let her accept it. It is her destiny that cannot be denied. Nara asked in surprise, what? Nara took down the relic and said she had to get to university and then a job. Who needs hunters in their day anyway? The old man asked what university? A job? Because of these insignificant human problems, she rejects the sacred relic of Dangun. Nara did not deny it and replied that it was true. The old man asked her, had she ever heard of the fallen? All those who rejected the destiny ordained by God suffered a lot, and in the end they died. Their luck was gone forever. Nara immediately pictured herself in the hospital and wondered if she was going to die. The old man said that some of them were living like beggars. Nara immediately jumped up and replied that it was mean. And what kind of God is it that mocks people for not wanting to live the destiny prepared for them? Nara put on the relic and said that she didn't want to kill anyone. And in a moment, a bow immediately appeared in her hands. The old man immediately saw that the red bow had turned blue. The relic changed its appearance, showing that it had accepted this child. And evil creatures would soon begin to flock here, eyes burning with desire to get their hands on her. And what to do now? And you can't see any malice in her eyes. What an innocent child. And he wishes her luck in the trials ahead. But he cannot understand the will of the heavens. And he himself is an ancestor of the gods. The old man told her that once she uses this power, it is up to her. But for her, he had one piece of advice to give her as the new owner of the relic. She must not trust the beasts, and promptly disappeared. Wu looked around and said he was gone. Han asked, is he definitely gone? Du smiled too and replied that the acting was on point. Nara asked, and what changed? She immediately raised her hand in the air. Wu asked, not working? But Han asked as she put it away, in case it reappeared. Du said he thought the old man was going to wipe them out. Nara asked if she could call him again. But Kim immediately told her not to do that. Kim realized that the ring had chosen Nara after all, a hunter who doesn't kill animals. Though the ring recognized her, she had entered the tiger's den herself. And would it now be hers? Du went for a swim after his hard day, but was a pig the whole time and bathed as well. But looking in a mirror, he turned into a guy who really loved his body and face. He said Du-han was just handsome, but all the time he had a sign on his back that showed who he really was. Beck was looking at the haunted vessel at this time and said that this kid wasn't bad, pretty strong. He'd never seen anything like this among the foxes. Beck asked where they had caught that Kimaho. Kim looked and replied that it was her little secret. Beck sighed and said they would see each other again. He would look forward to their next meeting. Kim asked the guy what he does with all the perfume she brings him. Beck thought for a moment and replied that it was his little secret. At that time, Nara and W were doing their homework. But suddenly Nara was holding a pencil and its ring glowed. Nara told the guy out of surprise to look. The pencil is glowing. Wu didn't pay attention and pretended to be surprised too. Nara didn't hold back and showed off the powers of the ring. She said she looked like a sorceress. Nara said that as soon as another spirit showed up, she would kill him with that pencil. Suddenly W turned around and asked, "Isn't she going to do her homework?" But Nara let out this pencil and was greatly surprised. The strength of the ring was so high that the pencil drilled a hole in the wall. Nara was surprised and asked how was that possible. Wu asked how she did it. Nara replied that she didn't know. So the guy told her to try again. Once again decided to try it, and pulling on the pencil showed that she did this and shot it like this. Suddenly Du came in and asked, "Has Nara left yet?" And in a moment he stopped, even speechless at what he saw. For the pencil she released was headed for him. He didn't even know what he should do now. But the pencil changed its trajectory at the last second and went through the rooms and hit Kim's butt. Suddenly everything around them changed, and Nara asked, "Earthquake?" Kim lost her temper and said they were assholes. Kim grabbed W and was saying she would wipe him in a powder, eat him, and he would come out with her shit. Nara just closed her eyes and apologized to her. After this drill, she sat on the couch and put ice on her butt. "Did the arrow fly away?" she asked. Kim said hunters' arrows ward off evil spirits, something like that, which means she needs more practice. Don't let her shoot so carelessly, and especially not at her. She's a good person, like her. You can't shoot good people. Nara replied that she understood and kept in her head that arrows ward off evil spirits. But she also remembered that the old man had told her not to trust beasts. Walking back up to the room, Wu told her it was getting late. Let her go home already. Nara walked through the closet and lay down on her bed. Nara said she was so tired and decided she would do her homework tomorrow. She tried to fall asleep and headed to the refrigerator for something tasty. But in a moment, she immediately sensed that there was someone near her, and closing the refrigerator door, she pretended not to see the ghost. Nara immediately wondered, what is this? When did he show up here? She'll pretend she didn't see it and just run away. And suddenly Ghost started saying that he was actually in pain. And I asked Nara, "Is that her pencil?" Nara looked and immediately realized it was her pencil. The ghost told her to get it out now. "He's in pain." Nara tried to pull the pencil out, but Ghost kept yelling that it hurt a lot. Let her pull out. After this, Nara could not recover and went to her room. She could not sleep and was completely exhausted. Nara went outside and said that ghosts now came to her in her dreams too. Maybe it was the pencil, she thought. And if she found him, he wouldn't come after her, would he? But suddenly an autumn leaf fell on her head. She was surprised and picked it up. But looking up at the tree, she saw that the ghost was sitting there. But he was very afraid of her and even tried to hide. It was said that just as a carelessly thrown stone kills a frog, just as the flutter of a butterfly's wings turns into a typhoon, and Nara's pencil accidentally triggers a big storm, and it all ends badly. Suddenly, the ghost from the tree disappeared. Nara thought it must be the same ghost she had seen in her dream. Along the way, Nara stood in front of the house and said that she remembered it. Ever since she was a child, as long as she could remember, this house had been abandoned, and it was still the same to this day. She had always been scared and went around it another way, but how did she end up here again? Even the older ones avoided him, as he just reeks of terror. She heard that the people who lived in it died of some disease. And if you go into it, something terrible happens. Suddenly, she remembered hearing something on the news a few days ago. There were 3 people gathered in this house. The guy was asking how they were getting this asylum. Do they like it? They say the house has been empty for decades. The girl replied that she was surprised and said that their Minsu had done a good job. Minsu started laughing and asked, "Really?" But the other guy asked, "Don't they think it's kind of creepy here? They're going to get in trouble because of that idiot." Minsu asked him, was he scared? Let him go back to kindergarten then. But boyfriend replied to shut up. But the girl got angry and said that they smoked so much here, her clothes would smell like their cigarettes. The boy replied that he hadn't smoked yet. The girl asked, "Then where's that smoke coming from?" The guy turned around and asked with surprise, "Smoke?" Turning around, they saw that a strange smoke that looked like a ghost had appeared behind them. The guy saw the ghost's teeth and started yelling that it was a ghost, and it never came out of there after that. Nara said she heard that the burglars that were hanging around here are missing, and that's really creepy. Nara stuck her head in and wondered if she could look in. She wondered if anyone was here, but suddenly she saw a huge tree. "I wonder if it's bigger on the inside than it looks on the outside." And then she looked up and saw her pencil. And that's where it went after that shot. And in a moment, she remembered what Kim had said. A hunter's arrows ward off evil spirits. And now it all looked very dark to her. And maybe that ghost, if she just leaves, it'll come back to her in her dreams. And she doesn't really want to go there. Nara started telling the little girl, "Ghost, to come to her. Sis will take the pencil out of her. Let it come to her." But in a moment, she realized she didn't want to go. And she asked herself, what is she even doing? And she looked around and said there was no one here. Nara stepped into the area and thought she would quickly pull out and run away. But suddenly she stepped and fell under the ground. Nara stood up and started wondering what the underground parking garage was. She started yelling and asking, "Is anyone upstairs?" Nara was starting to feel like it was so dark in here. They couldn't see anything at all. And it feels like she's completely fucked. Where is she supposed to go now? Nara turned on her phone and thought that there must be a way out of the garage. And why was the garage so big? She started walking around, looking for where the exit was. But in a moment, she noticed that the tree roots had gone through the walls. And they're all over the place. And when she looked in the corner, she saw that there were candles. And it looked like someone else was here. Nara was suddenly very scared. And were they really still here? She started screaming and asking if anyone else was here. But suddenly she initiated back and saw the very people who had gone missing standing there. Nara started screaming in fear, and shining her top, she saw that it wasn't just them. There were other people here as well. Nara immediately thought, who are all these people? And are they drunk? But shining her light on the tree, she saw that there were cards in the tree. At this time in the car, Wu was asking, "Isn't that weird?" Han asked him what it was about. The guy replied that he had caught the fox. But why? Nara's curse still hadn't lifted? Kim asked him if he had noticed. Everyone was immediately very surprised. Wu said that the bottle he had sealed him in. And at that time, Nara noticed all the vessels that the ghosts had been placed in. Wu was asking at this time, where is she? Nara didn't understand what was even going on and asked herself, what was all this? But in a moment, she felt someone lowering behind her. And it was the same ghost she'd seen in her dream. Nara wondered in the moment, what is all this? What is wrong with these people? They look so strange. Nara looked at Guy and asked if he was all right, but Guy didn't answer anything and just started looking at her strangely. They all started walking towards the girl at once. Nara was frightened and told them to stay away from her. But suddenly they started acting very strange and running toward the girl. Nara started shouting for them to back off, and after dodging them, they all collapsed to the ground. Nara told them not to even think of approaching. At that point, a ghost came down behind her and addressed her. The ghost asked her if he helped her. Would she pull the arrow out? Nara didn't understand and asked what. The ghost pointed his hand at the root of the tree and told her to climb. Nara hesitated at his words and didn't know what to do. But people came to their senses and started walking towards her. The ghost noticed this and told her to get up faster. Nara said she understood and started climb. But the men caught up in time and grabbed her as she was being lifted by her legs. They tried so hard to drop her that they even scratched her feet with their claws. Nara was in pain at that moment that she even screamed. But Nara was not confused after such a thing, and pulling out one leg began to pummel them. And with her strength, she knocked one of them out. Nara broke away from them and began to climb higher. And with a sigh she thought, what had happened to them? Nara wondered if this was all happening because of some stupid pencil. And climbing up the tree to the top, she saw a bright light. When she got out of the hole, she sighed and said she was alive. But when she looked at her feet, she saw a bunch of scratches left by those people. Nara looked up from the tree and saw her pencil, and thought to herself, how could she get it out so easily? But this was somehow too suspicious for her. But suddenly someone came out of the hole and grab her leg. She was very frightened by this and managed to put her foot against a tree. But the girl who was dragging her to the pit saw that tears started to flow on the girl's face. But she took her foot away and the girl fell back down. Nara pulled out her pencil, but noticed that something was wrong. The monster came out with the pencil. Nara looked at it and said, "What is that? And how disgusting it was. What kind of worm is that?" But lifting her gaze to the top of the tree, she saw that it was beginning to darken, and the hand from the hole began to grow roots. Nara looked up and asked, "Is it over?" But suddenly some ghosts started coming out of the tree. The ghost showed his face and said he had waited 70 years for freedom. She'd set him free. Nara thought, what 70 years? If it had been sealed for 70 years, did that mean she had let something bad out? Nara saw that the ghost was getting bigger and asked, what if the baby was growing too fast? The ghost said a guy named Beck was a hobo. He made him rot here for 70 years, and it's time for revenge. But Nara wondered in a moment, is he a monster or a spirit? And she feels like she has awakened something dangerous. The monster said he had watched from a tree for so many years as his family was destroyed. He's been waiting for this day to come, and he's going to eat every bone in his body. Have him come down now. But Beck stood at the top of the stairs and watched them. But he didn't think of coming down yet. Beck said his seal couldn't be broken. So how did he get out? The monster replied to stop talking. He told him to get down, and this time he would definitely kill him. But suddenly, Beck used his strength, and with a crushing attack, jumped on him and smashed him into the ground. Beck asked the girl as she broke his seal. Nara looked at him and abruptly put her pencil behind her back. Beck told the monster to be obedient and climbed back into the tree. But the monster insisted and stood up, punching him in the chest. Beck didn't have time to react and just stepped back a little from his blow. The monster continued to attack and told him to get in there himself. The monster brought his fist down over the guy's head and stuck it into the ground. Beck said that if he did what he was telling him to do now, he would let him live. The monster was surprised at his confidence and immediately slapped him. But the last moment Beck put his palm to his chest and stopped him. The monster didn't feel anything at first, but the wave of impact from Beck's palm was so strong that it fell from such a blow. Nara watched their battle at this time and thought, what kind of power does this uncle have? Is he human? And it's not like he can't be a mere human. Nara thought she should run out of here and tell the police. But Beck saw that and told her not to move. The guy said she was covered in dirt and asked her what she saw in that basement. Nara said she didn't see anything. Beck asked, so was she the one who let him out? Nara felt in her head that this uncle was so scary. Nara replied that all she did was pull out a pencil. But Beck was a little distracted and saw the monster attacking again. Beck looked at him and said how had he not realized yet that it was useless. The monster replied, how about this? And let fire come out of his mouth. The fire covered Beck completely, but he put his hand in front of his face. Nara saw this and worried for him. Beck told the monster that means they're playing with fire, and it turns out he asked for it. The boy immediately jumped into the air, but the monster took Neru's hands in his and stepped aside. The girl tried to resist and told him to let her go. Beck turned around and saw that the girl was gone, but by this time a monster had grabbed her and walked through the door. But Beck was not afraid of anything and opened that door right away. He told the monster that this time he would tear out all his limbs. But closing the beast behind him, he passed as if through a portal that transported him to another place. Beck looked around and saw another open door, and this one said someone loved Busan. Beck got angry and turned to the goblin. The monster replied that he seemed so cool, but was trapped down a rabbit hole. The monster said he hadn't eaten in 70 years, so he had a couple meals in store for the likes of him. Nara realized at this point that she had just been dragged inside. The monster asked her if she was hungry, and suggested that they eat something delicious together. Nara asked with surprise, yummy? She looked around and wondered if there was any food here at all. Or does he mean he's going to eat it? Nara replied that she wasn't hungry at all. She had already taken the pencil out, so she should go home now and let him get his revenge here. The monster told her not to be afraid. He's not bad. Doesn't she remember it herself? And let her see all his family loved him. Mr. Parkam Ji and his wife, and how young they are. This is his son, Mr. Park Jong Man, who was decorated during the war. And then there was Jongman's son. He was a smart kid and became a successful businessman. Even though the last child was weak, he was still very cute. The monster asked her if she remembered him. Park Gang-ho is the last descendant of this family. Nara thought, is this ghost really crazy? How would he know them? Would he kill her if she said she didn't know him? The monster said he's the guardian god of this family. Nara started clapping and said that was awesome, and she realized that she should definitely leave now. Suddenly, Monster pointed his finger and said, there she is, she's here too. Nara was surprised and asked what. She remembered that there was her in the corner of the old abandoned house in the black and white photograph. Nara didn't understand how this could have happened. Was it her, she asked? But how? Why is she here? The monster replied that she had promised. Nara asked with surprise, promised? Monster started to get angry and asked, is she kidding? Nara held up her hands and told him not to get angry. She had just come for her pencil in the first place. The monster said it was about that strange arrow. But suddenly music started playing around him, and he asked what was that strange sound. Nara pulled out her phone slowly and realized it must be Jin Woo calling. She decided to distract him and asked what's up. The monster believed her and distracted himself. But Nara immediately started running away and took a call from Jin Woo. But Monster was in time and grabbed her phone. He didn't even bother to ask and immediately broke it into pieces. Monster asked, does he look like a fool? Let her not do anything stupid. Nara said, what about her phone? The monster said he was the keeper of this house and was released, so this is the safest place to be. Nara realized that he was going to hold her forcibly. Was she going to stay here forever? But suddenly a girl came in and told her not to believe that monster. Nara replied that she had seen her in the basement. Is she all right? The girl yelled at her to run away and told her that he was the one who locked them in the basement. The monster was surprised and asked what. The girl told him what kind of keeper he is. He's that ghost everyone says eats all the people in this house. The monster got angry and hitting the girl said it wasn't true. Nara was surprised and frightened when she saw this. The monster started saying it was a lie. She's lying about everything. He told Nara not to believe her. It's all lies. All the guys immediately jumped on him and tried to restrain him. Suddenly the door opened and a guy shouted at Nara to run to him. Nara tried to run away, but Monster tossed the two guys in front of her and made a cutlet out of them. The monster told her not to let herself be fooled. All these guys Beck's got in his head. If she gets out of here, he's going to get her too. The guy at the window was yelling at her to grab on quick. He's a monster, and the monster told her to stay here until he left. At that moment, Nara wondered who she should trust. The monster was telling her to trust him. Nara remembered Kim's words as she said that the hunter's arrows she releases prey on evil spirits. The guy was yelling the whole time for her to wake up and telling her not to believe this monster. Nara came to her senses and after thinking for a moment started running towards the guy. The monster got angry and said that he had told her not to go out. The monster immediately grabbed her and slammed into the wall with her. Nara couldn't dodge and passed out after that. The monster said, why wouldn't she believe him? Suddenly the guy's eyes changed and replied that no one would believe him. Let him look at himself. And regardless of the truth, the human mind believes what it wants to believe. This girl and all the families of this house chose to believe he was a monster. The monster got really angry and told him he was a bastard and channeled his energy into him and told him to shut up. Beck looked over and said he'd have to hurry up. The monster was saying at this time to just wait and see for himself to smash his squatter face in. We swallows all those people. The boys arrived at that very house by this time, and Wu asked his mother, is this here? Kim replied that yes, she could feel Nara's energy here. Du asked what kind of energy. She was just checking the location of her phone. Kim told him to just shut up. Kim told them to grab their weapons. They all got ready, and she commanded that anyone who trespassed on her holy relics would be destroyed. Wu climbed up on the fence and looked around at what was going on and said, Nara first. Let her wait. Kim looked around and said, what an unusual tree. And they went straight to the house. Opening the door, you looked in the crowbar and saw that the place was scattered and no one probably even lived here. Wu opened the door fully and said there was no one here. But Han put his hand in front of him and told him not to come in. The boy asked why. Han replied that here is a rabbit hole trap that is triggered by detecting the power of spirits. And once they get in, there's no telling where they'll end up. Wu asked, can he take it off? Han replied, what does he think? Han said the seal is out of date. Let them give him 5 minutes. He took out the pen and said that even 3 minutes would be enough. Han said that if you could break the seal with chicken blood energy, you could. And suddenly at one point he stopped. Kim immediately went over and ripped the door off with her hands. She said they didn't have time. Let her get up. Han said he should have thought with his head before tearing the door open. They all went in together at once. But suddenly Wu saw that there was a girl in the room, standing in the wall like a foundation. Han approached and asked, are they dead bodies? But Kim replied that they were still alive. Du asked if they were just thrown into the wall and left there. Han looked at it and said it was very strange. Kim asked him if he could get them. The guy said it would take a long time. It's an old technique. Whoever did this is a bastard. Wu looked around and said he couldn't see Nara. But Kim told him to wait for them. But as he approached the door, Wu heard a loud noise. He thought maybe Nara is in there. Is she hiding? Wu opened the door slowly, and seeing someone realized it wasn't Nara. But what was the rabbit hole amulet doing there? The monster made an aisle to the store, and pulling out all the food all the time, said this here's the yummy stuff. Han said he must have decided to rob the supermarket. Du asked if it was a ghost. Kim replied that it looked like Takabe. Takabe asked with surprise Wu, and without wasting time, jumped out at him with his huge bat. Wu asked him where Nara was. Monster said, and who is this boy? But the kid punched him and told him to bring Nara back to him. The monster got even more angry and said he was an asshole, but Wu didn't slow down and continue to strike. The monster was getting tired of getting his head bashed in and tried to punch him. Wu was surprised that he didn't even move. The monster slammed into the guy and hit right on target. Wu failed and slammed into the wall after the punch. Wu thought in a moment, why is he so strong? The monster asked, yes, who dared to interrupt his lunch? But suddenly Kim came up and punched the monster in the head. With one punch, she sent it through the wall. The monster fell to the ground and could not move, and even the girl's palm remained on its face. Kim asked, where's the sacred relic? The monster was conscious and asking what was that. What had hit him? Kim told Wu and Du to find Nara. Kim said she would take care of the monster herself. Han gave her a sword and decided to help her. But Kim said no, let him stay away. And it had been a while since she'd warmed up. The monster said no human could hit him like that. Did Poon Baek send her after him? Kim was very surprised and asked how he knew it, and thought, why does Takabe even know that name? The monster said the Windy Creep's henchman. Kim replied that she was a little offended at being called a henchman. She would call it more of a business relationship, so they're partners. The monster thought for a moment and said that he was, as he thought, his tame dog. Kim asked, couldn't he hear her? Doesn't he know who the partners are? The monster immediately jumped on her and said he was going to kill them all. But Kim steadied herself against him and stopped him with both hands. The monster at this moment was greatly surprised and didn't understand why he couldn't move. Is it really a spiritual power? The monster couldn't believe it with his own eyes. But he realized that he wouldn't just give up. Han watched from the sidelines and was greatly surprised. The monster replied, so much effort on his aunt's part. Kim said she hadn't even used half of it. The monster asked, didn't he? He's actually not trying very hard either. Kim asked him what he's even saying. She can't hear him and is about to fall asleep out of boredom. The monster asked her if she would add some strength. Kim replied that yes. He looked like he was already shitting his pants. The monster said she was shaking with fear herself, but Kim added a little more strength and suppressed it. The monster was surprised and couldn't understand what was even going on, and what was she all about? Kim started laughing and immediately punched him in the head. On the way to the second floor, Wu said that the house was about to collapse. But Du couldn't breathe and replied that there was so much dust. It's so dirty, he even feels sick. Going up to the second floor, Yu started yelling Nara's name and looking for her. When they entered the room, they saw Nara. W went over to her and started yelling at her. Du looked and said how could she sleep so peacefully? In Nara's subconscious, she began to hear Wu's voice telling her to come to her senses. Suddenly, she woke up. Wu asked her if she was okay. Wu asked her why she didn't answer the phone. But Nara said nothing and hugged him. Nara said she was in so much pain and so scared. Let him stand like that for a while. Suddenly Wu realized that he had forgotten. What a dangerous world Nara has fallen into. Wu said that everything was fine and she was doing well. Meanwhile, the monster kept fighting and said he was the guardian of this place. Let her get out of his house. But Kim didn't notice and got punched in the face. She told him he was pretending to be a saint. The monster asked her what the hell she was talking about, and grabbed her in his arms and told her he was going to give her a tour of the house. The monster said here was the hallway and immediately ran into the wall with her. After going through 2 rooms, he asked her how she felt about that. But Kim got sick of it all, and losing her temper, she immediately turned into a tiger that immediately pounced on him. After knocking Monster to the ground, she began to pummel him with her claws. The monster was surprised and didn't understand how she could turn into a tiger. Suddenly things started to fall apart, and the guys on the 2nd floor got really worried. Having fallen from the 2nd floor, Nara fell down on W. The boy held her in his arms and said he was having a hard time. Du looked at him and said that they were so annoying, they should stop already. He asked what she was saying. Suddenly, Han appeared and showed that they were brats. Wu got angry and asked what he said, but Kim said that she looked pretty good. Nara asked with surprise at that moment, did they all come or what? Once underground, Han asked, what is this? And there's a mountain of empty sealed containers. Kim looked over and asked Monster, what was he doing here? Wake up, and what is this? The monster replied that it was a trap created by Beck. He was using him as bait, constantly bringing all these ghosts from somewhere, trapping them inside him and raising them. Beck especially liked the thistles that grew up eating other ghosts. Kim said that was enough lies. Why would Beck want to do that? The monster replied that he was saying that such ghosts were more long-term. Kim asked with surprise, what did he say? The monster replied that Beck was dying. He's just an empty shell, and by eating thistles, he's prolonging his life. And suddenly, slowly, Beck himself, who had been showing a different side of himself all this time, came to them. But Monster had said that he had already become a demon. Poon Beck was a death's door. He dedicated his life to serving the people by cleansing the world of monsters. And the price for that is death. Beck realized in his head that he didn't want to die. And why should he? And is this really the end? All this time he prayed to God, but God was always silent. And after trying many ways to survive, one day he decided to drink thistle. And after that the effect struck Poon Beck. He was cured and said that he would live. He would no longer pray desperately, no longer thrash about seeking God's blessing. And he doesn't even need his powers. He'll survive on his own and free himself from God's shackles. First he had one gulp, then another, and now Beck was filling his whole body with thistles, sinking deeper and deeper into that dark swamp of terror. And each time he felt he needed more thistles, his thirst turns to pain and gets to the point where he can't even remember his nightmarish deeds. Then one day, he happened to find an old tree standing lonely behind a fence in someone's yard. The village had accumulated all the thistles that Takabe, who guarded the family of this courtyard, had collected for 300 years. Having sealed the goblin and disposed of the entire family with sorcery, Beck, like a farmer, sat down to enjoy the ripe fruit and the thistles that seemed to have been waiting for him for hundreds of years. And suddenly Beck came in and said that he thought it was time for him to clean up the place. But the guys saved him the trouble, and they're good. Kim said, speak of the devil. Did the god Fimbo himself come to them? He really had tricked her into eating all the thistles she was giving him. Do asked, were they giving all the ghosts to him? Han asked that they must be like free labor. Beck replied that she'd assumed it herself. He had no reason to say no. She wanted to become human herself, so he just played on that, giving her false hope, encouraging her like a loyal dog. All he did was tame the beast he needed. She's not so useless. Kim got angry and replied that she needed to rip out his ugly tongue. Nara said he's no better than an animal. He'll never be a normal person again. He's so many years older, but he doesn't realize it. Beck responded by telling her to come out and say it to his face. Wu at this point said that he had told her to hide and keep her head down. Nara apologized and replied not to make him angry. Beck said it was natural to get rid of things she didn't need. They had already collected enough ghosts, as it was. Just like the hollow wood, they had become useless to him, so they would have to get rid of them. Kim saw the light and asked what's wrong. What's going on with that goblin? The goblin started screaming his body was on fire. At that moment, immediately that big and only tree in that house burst into flames. But one of the guys was standing outside and said there was a fire. Tell them to dial 119. Du told everyone to watch. It's a fire. Are they going to be stuck here? But Han replied to look for another way out. Beck looked at them angrily and said he would burn the place alive, and started to disappear. But Han saw that and used the bloody shackle technique. Beck couldn't escape and got trapped. He asked him when he had time, and then Kim ran up and hit him right on the head. But suddenly she saw the thistle thrown out after the blow. Kim asked him, was he that desperate? Beck replied that she was a vile animal. He would kill her with his own hands. And he raised his hands and summoned the basilisk. Beck used his powers and shoved Kim and Han into the wall. But suddenly the goblin came and grabbed him from behind and told him they would die together. Beck asked, did he still have the strength to move? The goblin replied that if he needed to kill him, he would use all his remaining strength to do so. Let him stay here and burn in the fire with him. But Wu attacked him and told Beck that he says he needs to kill to live. So what does his own method taste like? But Beck used his powers and got rid of the goblin's hands and said how funny they were. Beck grabbed W's head and told him not to be stupid. Does he even know what it's like to be an outcast? Has he ever experienced betrayal in his life? Was it thrown away like some useless thing? Suddenly Wu replied that this was where they were alike. But suddenly Beck was surprised, for a light beam passed through Wu's body and traveled through him. Suddenly Nara said he was right. Beck looked at his chest and asked, pencil? And Wu used his thunder punch at that moment. After such a tremendous blow, a huge amount of thistle was released from Beck's body. He asked what it was. Beck took hold of his wound and thought, why isn't he stopping? And his body was falling apart. Beck said things went downhill with the appearance of this girl. He told the girl it's her again. It's all because of her. Nara asked in surprise, what? Beck replied that she had already ruined all his plans twice. First by unleashing the goblin, and now with her fucking arrow. He would have his revenge on her. At that point, Nara replied that she wasn't intimidated by her threats. Kim asked, does he think he'll get another chance? It's time to clean the place up a bit. But Beck suddenly used his demonic paws and destroyed the ceiling. Han saw this and told his brother to be careful. The house is collapsing. Beck said that he would look forward to their next meeting. Kim and Wu started to dodge the collapse and asked, did he escape? But how? Du began to panic in the moment and told himself to calm down. This wasn't the kind of shit they were getting out of. There had to be a way out from where Beck had come from. Du realized in his heart that even from hell, there was a way out. Han suggested at this point that they should think about how to get out of here. This place is going to collapse soon. Nara looked at the fire and thought that the most important thing for them right now was to get out of the fire. She asked, is it even possible to get out of here? Suddenly, Joe shouted for them to come over to him. He had found a way out. They saw the bunny cards that were superimposed on the object. Han said he was good. And how did he even remember the rabbit hole refrigerator? Du answered not to mess up his hair. At that moment, Yu held out his hand to Nara and said that it was time for them to go home. Nara was very happy when she heard about home. But suddenly, in a moment, a rock fell on the object of their salvation. And all at once they were saddened. Kim said he was the smartest of them all. What should they do now? Han replied that he had no idea. Wu said that Beck had gotten out of here somehow. Let them look for another way out. Du replied that the place was already engulfed in flames, and it was the only way out. They were finished. But suddenly Du looked to the side and saw a door that was still intact. Suddenly the door opened in front of them, and the goblin held out his hand. Nara asked, is he trying to help them? The goblin replied that they could get out through that door. He used his last bit of strength. Nara yelled for him to go with them. He would still be able to live. The goblin replied that he would die with the tree. There was nothing he could do to protect his home or his family. And now he will do what he must as a guardian before he dies, and ask them to protect the last family member of this house. Nara wondered in a moment, would he really die? Had all his strength been wasted? Wu brought her to her senses and told her they had to go. Walking through the door, Nara looked back and saw the goblins slowly disappear and save their lives. But suddenly Nara looked under her feet and saw her picture about to burn. She put it out and took in her hands. She remembered Goblin telling her to watch how much his family loved him. He is the divine guardian of that family, after all. Nara said on the way out that the goblin said he'd been locked up for 70 years and said he was the keeper of this house. But she didn't believe him. She was scared. She should have been braver and could have ended differently, and she was truly sorry. May the goblin forgive her. Stepping out into the white light, Du said that they had survived. Kim asked where Nara and Wu were, but when they looked through the door, they saw that everyone was standing still. He asked, "Where are the others?" "And the house is intact, but how is that possible? It just burned down in front of their eyes." "In a well-tended garden." Wu knew right away that something was wrong. He told them to go back. But before she left, Nara looked to the side and saw a child standing with a camera taking pictures. Nara remembered in a moment how the goblin had asked her while showing her the pictures. Did she remember this? And this is the last descendant of this family. Nara immediately realized it was 1954. They had opened the door to the past. The boy was surprised and asked them who they were. But Nara and Wu didn't understand how this could even happen. Du asked where they'd gone. Kim said that they were right behind them. Weren't they? Han replied that it seems the amulet shattered and threw them somewhere else. Notwithstanding 5 people. Who is this child? And where did it come from? Nara tells the child that a huge black snake comes out of Beck's hand, which turns out to be actually a horrible monster. And now he has to get out of here right now. His family is in danger. The child said, "Teacher Beck is not that kind of person." Nara asked with surprise, "Teacher?" The child replied that he was a kind doctor who was treating his mom for a serious illness. Let her not speak ill of his teacher. Wu looked at their conversation and said it was useless. Would she herself believe it if someone she met for the first time said something like that? It was time to leave before things got even more confusing. Nara realized there was no way the child would believe her. She wouldn't believe her either. The goblin probably felt the same way. But she saw all with her own eyes what Poonbeck would do. She ran, hesitated, hid, and could do nothing. And she doesn't know if she will succeed or not. She immediately swept her hand and took the dark matter, and promised that she wouldn't run away again. W looked at it and realized that she had cleaned the boy with her bare hands. The boy asked her what she had done. Nara replied that she knows he doesn't see a lot of things, but she has no choice but to ask him to trust him. Nara told him to take it. If he put aside his prejudices, he would see the sincere intentions of the people. Suddenly Wu noticed something strange and asked, "Does the door close by itself?" He shouted to Nara to leave quickly. The door was about to close. Nara shouted to Takabe. Could she hear him? She would be sure to free him someday. So let him wait. They will meet again. The goblin at this time asked, "Wait?" Nara asked him to wait for her. But at that time, Beck was walking by and heard everything. Beck immediately opened the doors and saw the child and greeted him with joy in his eyes. The goblin was wondering if the girl would let him out. So this girl disappeared, only throwing some incomprehensible phrase. Beck asked the child, "Did someone come here?" But the child replied that someone had been here and then disappeared. The goblin realized that even though his body was trapped in the tree and he couldn't move, he could only endure all this torment by watching his happy family. Suddenly, the child came up to his mother and told her to look at the pictures he had taken. Mother looked over and said the azaleas were blooming so beautifully. "Is it really spring?" The boy replied that yes, there were many orchids and azaleas blooming in the yard. His mother told him that she had been watching him from the window as he took pictures of everything. The boy replied that he had taken this one especially for her. He really wanted to show her off. The mother was surprised and asked, "Really? Was he thinking of her when he was making her?" Suddenly the husband said he wanted to show her a real spring. Suddenly the boy said to his father he had told him not to tear the flowers. The man replied that, of course, he had to pick them for his mother. The boy was upset and said it wasn't fair. The mother replied that she liked Gang Ho's picture better because it wouldn't fade and would stay with her forever. The father asked, "Did he lose?" The mother hugged the boy and thanked him, and thanks to him, The mother has good dreams every day. The boy asked, were the dreams? The mother replied that the mother's cherished wish, and how her son would grow into a healthy and handsome young man and go to the big world beyond the walls of their home, and how he meets a farmer smiling in the sunshine and sees the smile of a child looking at his mother with sparkling eyes. He becomes a wonderful photographer whose work is filled with warm stories of people. The boy told his mother, for she knows how much he loves taking pictures. So, let her stay healthy and watch him become a real photographer. Mother replied that it was good. She wants to see it for sure. Having lost his mother and then his father, he was all alone in the world. And so he fell prey to the deadly guardian. Golan realized that he had to survive and protect at least this child. The goblin decided that he would give him his power. Giving it to the last child of this family would make him nothing more than an empty shell, but that didn't matter. If he could save him, and told the boy to run to the big world outside the walls of the house. As soon as possible, let him run away from here. After that, Beck became very angry and said that the child disappeared as if in a fog. The silence engulfed the whole house. The sound of footsteps disappeared, and the child's laughter could no longer be heard. The empty house became a tomb for happy memories of the past. As the years passed, he was still alone. The goblin kept telling himself that he couldn't protect them. He's a useless guardian who can't do anything. And he can't look at this empty house anymore. He started screaming and begging to be let out of here, or let him just kill him. The goblin kept wondering why he was still alive and already surrendering. The unexpected pencil went straight into his tree where it was placed. The goblin said an arrow of promise flew at him, which he had forgotten about. But the house was completely destroyed. Nara and the boy went outside, and she said that everything was burned. The boy and Nara went outside, and she said that everything was burned. And when they returned, the house was already reduced to ashes. Nara went upstairs and said that even the wood had burned. Suddenly Wu said for her to look. Is it really Takabe? Nara asked him where. Looking up at the tree, they saw a small goblin sitting on it. Nara rejoiced and said that Takabe had survived. Nara asked the goblin if he could hear her. Wu replied that he wouldn't recognize them. He would soon disappear. Nara began to recoil and asked that he not disappear, and asked if there was no way to save him. W replied that whether the tree would survive was unknown. But suddenly the police came and addressed them and said that it was very dangerous to be near the fire. The policeman turned around surprised and asked, were they here at the time of the fire? And there was a witness who saw someone enter the house with a can of gasoline. Did they see anything? Nara replied that she hadn't, and they hadn't seen anyone either. But suddenly from behind the woman said that she knew there was something wrong with this house. Had they seen it at all? The man told her that it was good that it had burned down. Because of all the gangsters who came here, he couldn't sell the house. The prices were terribly low. Disgusting neighborhood. And the owner of the house insisted that he would never sell it, and so it burned down on its own. But Nara came up and asked, is the owner of this house alive? The woman replied that it was a long time ago. She doesn't even know if he is still alive. Suddenly, the man said that he was in the hospital. Nara asked, is he still a famous photographer? The man replied, what was his name there? He doesn't even remember. Suddenly, the goblin said his name was Gang Ho. But news reports said that documentary photographer Park Gang-ho passed away on March 1st. The bereaved family donated more than 70,000 of the deceased's works to the National Gallery, where they will be displayed in a special exhibition. When Nara arrived at the exhibition building in Park Gang-ho's memory, she said it was here. So the child survived. W said to check. It could be different people, but with the same names. And immediately they went to the exhibition hall. The kid remembered his mother, saying she liked the picture Gang Ho took better, because it wouldn't fade. Ho looked at the picture of the girl he remembered and said he would believe her and fulfill her mother's dream. And Gang Ho will go out into the world outside the walls of the house, meeting a smiling farmer working in the sunshine, and will fill his works with warm stories of people. The goblin remembered telling him to leave. Let him run from here to the big world. Nara said she was so proud. She can't believe that that little boy has become a wonderful photographer after all. You mean the boy? He's a grandfather to them because he was born much earlier than they were. But suddenly a girl came up to them and asked, did they think the tree was interesting too? Grandpa said it was his favorite picture, and he always said that the tree was not easy, it had saved him. Nara asked in surprise, Grandfather, is she the granddaughter of that child? The girl replied that she was Mr. Gia's, and she has to go. Nara felt that they did look alike. Ra didn't interrupt. Gia walked up to the men and thanked them for coming to their farewell event. The goblin said that seeing the last member of the family alive, Takabe could leave this world with relief. The goblin said goodbye and said he would be blown in a fine dust right away. But Nara didn't want him to leave. He tagged himself in the picture. He went to his family. Nara asked if he would live. Wu replied that they would not know that. But he looks happy. He has chosen to stay in the moment where there is no pain or suffering. But suddenly his phone rang, and Kim asked if he was okay. Wu replied that he was fine and asked where they were. That day, while walking along a road she hadn't often traveled before, she came across a Takabe tree. She came out of the rabbit hole and walked through another door with Jen Wu. She wondered if it was all a coincidence, or was it a miracle? And in fact, she believes that miracles are not God's help or coincidence, and the result of human will. After getting on the train, Han asked what was wrong. Kim replied that they were safe. Han asked why she trusted Poonbaek. He wasn't the type to trust people so easily. Kim replied that she suspected but didn't want to believe. She thought it was an easy and quick way to become human, and it was her fault. Han replied that Jen Wu and he would survive. And there's Han Du. He wants to be human more than any of them. He's very depressed. Du said that yes, he is disappointed and hurt. But that doesn't change the fact that they should proceed with the plan, does it? Han asked with surprise, benefiting people? Kim replied that yes, nothing has changed. But they know volunteering is not her style. Khan told them to restore their accounts. He had already created a new secret chat room. But Kim responded by telling them to cheer up. They already have 2 Dangun sacred relics, so they'll find a way to truly become human without anyone else's help. Beck gathered all his men and asked, what's up? Does he like his new body? The guy replied, what a piece of garbage. He feels like he's wearing some kind of rag. The second guy said to find another body then. Suddenly, the first guy started to turn and replied that he would. The girl looked at him and said fox disguise. The boy said they wouldn't have called him without a reason. Fox asked what they needed from him. Beck replied that it was nothing much. The usual. There are people to plunge this world into chaos. But don't let him touch the girl named Nara. Her soul, he will take care of himself. And after that, the fox began to laugh at his words. Inside the crystal ball, mist swirled and white flames flared. The purpose of the ball was unknown, but one day the man guessed that it was one of Dangun's sacred relics. The guy was telling the kid that her mother had left him so much trouble. Possessing the relic would make him a target for all sorts of evil. What's he going to do with it? Sell it? And as soon as he thought of that, but suddenly the child took the balloon and energy seeped into his hair. The guy yelled at him to spit it out. You can't eat that. But after that, they headed near the demilitarized zone in Jiulwen, Gangwon-do province. In a deep forest lived a father and son cut off from the world. The boy told Jin Wu that his father was home. Wu had incredible strength, and when he saw his father, he jumped to meet him. But he was so strong that he knocked his father to the ground and asked him what he had brought him. His father asked him if he had waited long. W replied that he had not waited very long. He asked the child what he had been doing. Wu replied that he swam, climbed trees, and chased animals. His father asked him, he didn't eat raw meat anymore, did he? Before dinner, Wu asked his father if he had caught any ghosts. His father replied that no, they had all vanished somewhere. Wu asked if he was going to leave again. Dad replied that he probably would. He was really sorry to leave him all alone in the mountains. Wu said he wasn't bored here. Let him bring pizza next time. Father listened and said he would. W asked his father, is he having a hard time? The father was surprised and asked why he was asking. The boy replied that he missed his mom. Dad said not really. Wu told his father that he even talks to her in his sleep. The boy was surprised and asked, does he talk? Before going to bed, the boy asked why he chose his mom. The boy replied that it wasn't that they could control their feelings. Their mother was so beautiful that he fell in love at first sight. Looking at her, it seemed that he couldn't even imagine anyone else next to him. You look at a man and you start to believe in fate. I was surprised and asked, "What is fate?" The guy replied that fate is something that doesn't change, even when the stars fall from the sky. One day he too will meet his destiny. He will understand it and will tell his children about it. Wu thought for a moment and replied that he was not sure. He asked all these questions not because he was curious about his mother. It was because his father looked the happiest in the world every time he talked about her. In the morning, Guy packed his suitcase and said he would be back soon. I asked him why he was catching ghosts. He told himself they could kill him. W asked if it was true that you could become human by catching them. The boy replied that that was not why he was after them. He just thinks it's the right thing to do. To love, to help someone, and to live as a human being is not that hard, not really. Looks don't matter either. After that, I thought a lot about the words that looks don't matter. And it's not hard to live like a human being. And his father was right. The father told his son he was off and told him to hide his tail. W said goodbye and shouted at him to remember the pizza. After that, W started climbing trees and telling the squirrel to have a nice appetite. After all, acorns are for squirrels and pizza is for people. In the evening, W climbed a tree and said that today he helped, loved, and lived like a human being. Tomorrow he would also live like a human being. 2 days passed, and his father never came back. He said he would come back after he had slept 3 times. He was always delayed, but this time it was different. On the 5th night, he was visited by a man he had never seen before. Suddenly, she told him that Wu was not bad at pretending to be human. He immediately realized at that moment that she was dangerous. Wu said he smelled her right away. The grandmother replied to the little boy not to be afraid. She didn't come here to hunt for him. His father was a comrade to her. She's really sorry for what happened. And that day his father came home as an urn of ashes. Now, 10 nights or 100, his father would never come back. And he's all alone. And this little jar is his father's fate. The old woman told him he could go with her if he wanted. She would take care of him. Will she help him? But why? The old woman asked him. He had never asked his father. Why did she help people? When he arrived in the city, the old woman asked him what his name was. Wu introduced himself and replied that his father had named him so that he would help people and lead them. But suddenly Wu started to hear a voice calling him in the morning. Nara was trying to reach him. The boy came to his senses and asked what was wrong. Nara asked him what he was thinking about. Wu replied that he was about the past. The girl said that he would definitely crash somewhere if he kept his head in the clouds. But suddenly Wu abruptly grabbed her bag and dragged her backward. She didn't even notice the bus passing in front of her. Wu asked her, where are the words of gratitude? Nara looked at him and replied that it was true that she was grateful. Nara told the guy that he had been so nice to her lately. Wu was surprised and asked if he was. The girl replied that she thought he was annoyed at first. But did she realize he was showing such concern? I asked her if she was serious. And suddenly I remembered all the times he'd spoken to her. Wu understood in his head and knew that Nara was the granddaughter of the grandmother who had raised him. Could it be fate? Beck's servants turned into identical people. The boy wondered if they really looked alike. The second guy replied that it was perfect. No one would suspect anything. The third guy asked why the boss is making them do this. Does he really want them dead for having a little fun with the girl Poon Beck has his eye on? Upon entering the school, a guy asked if they could rip off at least one fingernail. The other guy suggested that they split up and find her. And her name is Nara, right? At this time, upstairs of the house, a couple had gotten some privacy. And the guy asked, is class over yet? The girl replied, who cares? The guy kissed her and told her that he missed her very much. The girl replied that she missed him too. But suddenly the guy stopped and looked away. The girl asked, what's wrong? The guy asked, does she think someone is watching them? The girl replied that classes were still going on. No one could come to the roof. The boy asked with surprise, really? But the ghosts of the school looked at them and watched. Grandma kept saying she was hungry again. But the phantom said, what a bunch of brats. No shame, no conscience. The teacher asked what the students were doing in broad daylight in a sacred school. The ghost builder replied that they would all die anyway, and their bodies would rot and decompose. and it wouldn't be fair to just become a ghost without getting a taste of it. Suddenly, Ghost Master slapped him. The builder asked him why he hit him. The teacher replied that he should shut up if he didn't want to die again. The builder replied that he was only saying that one should cherish every life lived. But the master covered his mouth and saw the ghost looking at them strangely. The ghost asked, were they talking about her now? The builder replied that no, he didn't mean her. Ghost said, as if she'd never wanted to try something like that. Damn world. She wanted to have rooftop dates too. The builder told her to calm down a bit. Ghost was saying at this point that she wanted a kiss too, and she's never even held a man's hand in her life. But why is the world so unfair to her? Why is she only unhappy? But suddenly she saw W coming up the stairs, and she realized that it was her only ray of light in this damn world. Ghost realized that just looking at him made her feel good. But suddenly Nara stepped out of the way and shouted to him. Ghost got really angry and said it was her again. Nara rubs up against Jin Woo every day. Could it be that they're dating? Is it really true? She realized that if he was taken from her too, would she really have to endure the pain again? How harsh her life was. She had lost her ray of light. But suddenly Nara came up to her and asked her, was something bothering her? The ghost replied that no, everything was fine. Nara said she looked like she was in a bad mood. Have her let her know if there is anything she can do to help. The ghost realized that she was kind and her face was pretty. How unfair the world is. She realized that she had saved her from a fox not too long ago, so she was grateful to her. But sometimes she wanted to hate her. How it pissed her off. Ghost said she just didn't deserve to be happy. Nara was surprised and asked what she meant. Ghost replied that her life had been filled with a series of suffering and pain. Her parents were killed in a car accident, and so she became the head of a family of 5, taking responsibility for her younger siblings. She had to drop out of school to raise them all. She worked in a factory at night and in a restaurant on weekends to earn more money for them all. The man in charge asks if she's tired. She could go home early. He would finish up here for her. The young and friendly owner of the restaurant seemed so cool to her. The man in charge said she had done a great job. Here was her paycheck for the month. The man in charge said he added some there, so let him buy his siblings something tasty. Ja was pleased and thanked for such a gesture. The man in charge said he had something else. Ja asked what was it, and it wasn't all bad. And there are moments she will never forget, even if they were very brief. That moment when she thought she was finally going to be happy. She died of overwork, and even after her death, she could not leave this world because she was worried about her younger brothers and sisters. Ja followed her brothers after that and yelled all the time to keep him awake. He needs to study and go to university. The kid at this point was greatly surprised and thought, what's going on? It was as if she could hear her sister's voice. Ja said that she had been following her siblings and tormenting them, which is what brought her here. Nara asked, so do they go to their school? Ja replied that yes, she did. Nara asked, so did she stay in school because she was taking care of her younger siblings? Ji replied that it's not just because of them. The only joy in her life is her ray of light, Gen W. But he will never be hers. Ji said she was going to go. Nara asked her little sister, where is she going? Is she going to settle down? Nara said she had to see her youngest graduate from high school. But suddenly someone pushed her from behind. Nara failed and rolled down the steps. Ji asked her if she was okay, but she touched her and looking at her arm saw her. Ji asked, how could this be? Had it really entered her body? At this point, Wu came over and reaching out his hand asked, did she fall again? How clumsy she was. Jean was greatly surprised and realized he was holding out his hand to her. Taking his hand, she realized that she had touched him. She hugged him and felt that his hands were so warm. How long has it been since she's felt the temperature of a human body? And he thinks she's Nara. But what should she tell him? He asked if she was hurt. That's right. She's in Nara's body. He hadn't noticed. Nara told him that she seemed to have twisted her ankle. W gave her hand and told her to grab it. GF felt that she could touch and feel him. What a blessing it was. G thanked Nara for providing her with her body, though not willingly. She really is an angel. Let her lie there a little longer. Heaven has granted her wish. She'll never get another chance. And her last chance, if this is truly a last resort, he will go all the way. Ji was already imagining her coming to his bed at night and kissing him. She wanted to feel it very badly. Ji continued to act the way she wants to act, and showed her attention to Wu to get him to notice her. Ji saw the sharp line of his chin, also the protruding veins in his arms. To her, he was matchless. Wu looked at her and asked what she was doing. Why is she looking at her like that? Ji asked, what does she look like? Wu replied that it was like she was up to something. Ji said that's right, and suggested that he go to the roof. The guy was surprised and asked why. Ji replied that she had seen couples going on dates on the rooftop. Wu asked in surprise, couples? What do they have to do with it? Ji froze at that moment and thought, aren't he and Nara dating? Is he ashamed to admit it? Or does he want her to take more initiative? Ji hugged him and asked him he didn't like dating. The girls were very surprised and thought, what is going on with her? But suddenly, Wu became very angry and pushed her away, asking what was she doing? Let her get away from him. Ji didn't realize at this point. Was she overdoing it? Or maybe there's something she doesn't know. She's never been in a relationship herself, after all. She thought he'd like it if she took matters into her own hands, but things seem to have gone wrong. Usually in romance novels, men are very easy to get along with. But is it really that different from reality? The girls went up to her and asked her, is she crazy? No fever? Has she been drinking? Ji replied that she didn't have time. The girls asked what was she talking about. Ji realized that when Nara woke up, it would be over. Ji said that's why they will definitely go on a date tonight. So let him take care of himself. W went up to the top floor immediately after and realized it was very dangerous. His tail almost came out. He wondered why she was rubbing up against him all day today. She was weird. Something was wrong. I thought about it and decided it can't be that. Does she like him? The guy went home and couldn't get it out of his head that she liked him. At this time, the three guys had gathered, and one of them was telling the second guy to tell them that he had found a girl. Why didn't he at least bring her fingernail? The other guy replied that he couldn't get closer to her. She had been rubbing up against Jin Woo all day. And the boss also told me not to touch her. But who cares about that? Shouldn't we eat Jin Woo first? In the evening, her mother told Nara that it was past her bedtime. Ji lay on the bed and said that even though she didn't go out with Jin Woo, she still had a very happy day. But she's still sad. She couldn't even take advantage of the opportunity given to her by heaven. Ji thanked Nara, for she was very happy today because of her. She got up and decided that she would just change and leave. But when she went into the closet, she saw the map, and she found it very interesting. And immediately she saw that there was another room in the closet. She walked through it and wondered where she had gotten to. When she looked to the side, she noticed Wu lying on the bed. She thought at this moment, what did Jin Woo forget here? Could it be that their rooms are combined? Jia thought, what is it? What is the relationship between them? They live in the same house and deny they're dating? She knew it. This could be her last chance. Jean walked into his room and realized that she didn't know what to do next. What now? Ji realized that she had never seen him so close before. You can look at his long eyelashes. Ji decided that she would only kiss him once and then leave. Let him not be too mad at her. Touching Wu's face, he opened his eyes abruptly and asked Nara, but she didn't stop and continued kissing him. Ji was excited because her first kiss had finally happened. But when she opened her eyes wider, she saw that Wu had placed his palm in her hand. W asked her if she had lost her mind. Wu grabbed her head and asked her, who was she anyway? Before Nara came to him, he couldn't sleep and kept thinking that Nara liked her. Of course, it was a little strange that she had spent the whole day by his side, but it was very nice. Suddenly, he realized he'd just been smiling. And why can't he stop thinking about her? He closed his eyes abruptly and saw Nara come into his room. Wu thought at that moment, what was she doing? Why did she come to him at this late hour? Nara walked up to him and looked at him with her gentle eyes. Nara asked him if he was asleep. He thought he wasn't. He doesn't sleep at all. And he felt her climbing onto the bed. But what she's doing? Nara climbed on top of him and started faking love for him. But Wu had been thinking all this time, why was she acting like this? When he saw her eyes, he knew it wasn't Nara. After all, she definitely wouldn't do that. He grabbed her head and asked her who she was. Ji asked what was he even talking about? Who was he talking to? Wu showed his face and told her to tell who she was right now. Wu said, she's not Nara. Ji knew right away that she was busted. But how could he know who she really was? Wu told him that if she didn't want to be destroyed, let her leave Nara's body now. He'll count to 3. Wu started counting right after he said that. Ji asked him what's wrong with him. Is he going to hit her? But W kept counting and didn't stop. But Ji got scared and told him to stop. Let him give her a minute. And if he hits her with that much force, she'll get hurt too. Wu said that here comes the 3rd count. Ji realized she had been exposed and said she was coming out. And at the moment of impact from Wu, she came out of the girl's body. Wu saw her and asked, "Is the ghost a virgin?" Jia realized her mistake and apologized to him. Wu yelled for her to stop. But Ji couldn't come to her senses, for he had scared the hell out of her. Why was she so scared? And he looks so angry when he realized she was a Nara. And suddenly she realized that he wouldn't be angry if it was the real Nara. You started yelling at Nara to wake up, but she didn't wake up and just mooed. And the boy immediately said that it was really her now. Nara was lying on the warm plaid and saying how warm it felt. It was so soft and tickled her, nice, just like a ball of fur. And that's how she wants to hold it in her hands. And suddenly, she opened her eyes in the morning and realized that it was only a dream. Nara asked when she had time to get home. The day had flown by like a blink of an eye. She didn't remember anything at all. Nara got the new news and asked if she tried to seduce him by taking possession of her body. Ji came in too and said that she apologized to her. She will never do that again. Nara approached her and told her that nothing happened between them. Yi replied to them that he swore that nothing had happened. Ji asked her, does she forgive her? Suddenly, Wu replied that it doesn't work that way. You can't have a ghost stealing people's bodies. They can't just let go. Wu said that now they would use this moment for her to finally find peace. Ji freaked out and replied that she honestly wouldn't do that anymore. Let her see her little brother grow up. Nara asked him, can't he just turn a blind eye for once? Sis Jia stayed at this school to keep an eye on her younger brother who is studying with them. Ji said that it was true. Nara replied that she had told her that she had almost no happy memories because her parents had passed away and she was the only one taking care of her younger siblings. She's so miserable and decided to forgive her. Wu looked at her and angrily replied that she didn't. Nara said that she didn't intentionally take her body. She didn't come to his room because she wanted to hurt him in any way. Suddenly, Wu said, still no. Nara asked what was wrong with going along to get along. Oh, and besides, it was her last wish for a kiss. Was it much to ask for? Did he ask her if she was serious? And he had to do this to her? Nara was surprised and asked what. Nara said no, as if to say, and suddenly she blushed. Wu asked, should he have agreed right away, since it was the ghost's last wish? But suddenly a nearby teacher was telling a schoolboy with a cigarette, smoking is bad for his health, especially it is forbidden in public places. The guy replied that it's been so long since he's been in the damn place, and this old guy has been pinging him since this morning. The old man told Kim Suk-woo that he was only saying that for his well-being. Suk replied to the director that he should take care of his bald head. Ji sighed and said that was her little brother. Nara was surprised and asked if it was him. Ghost replied that she was so worried about him. Kim Suk-woo is the most difficult teenager in their school who likes to pick fights every day. Suk said that his baldness can be rubbed like an egg. Ji said he can't leave this school because she's worried about him. Nara said it's so sad she doesn't even know how his sister sacrificed herself for him. Totally out of hand. The principal insisted and said that, and yet he was asking that she give up the cigarette. Sok replied to just kick him out of school already. Nara walked up to him and turned to punch him in the face that even the cigarette was broken into small pieces. Nara asked, has he lost his mind? Suk got angry and asked, has she lost her fear? The girl told him to wake up already. Does he have any idea how much her older sister cares about her? Let him at least do it for his sister. Sok was surprised and asked, sister? Nara answered yes. She's always by his side. Suddenly, Suk said he didn't have a sister. And who was she anyway? Nara was greatly surprised and asked what? Ji was telling her that this nice guy was her little brother. But suddenly she pointed at the headmaster. Ji went with him and told him to straighten up. And what became of his hair? Nara asked if the principal of their school was her little brother. The principal sometimes says he can still hear his sister grumbling. Her voice was a source of strength in difficult times, and remembering the moments when she raised her 3 younger siblings, creating a happy family, and having built a successful career, he always remembered his bright and beautiful sister. W said he thought it was high time she found peace. Nara replied that it was true. Still, she was glad that her little brother had grown up to be such a good person. In the morning, Wu was telling Nara to wake up. Was she sleeping so soundly? He lay down next to her and thought, should he wake her up, or should he leave her like this? Nara took his hand and started to tell him that he was so fluffy. Wu was surprised in a moment and couldn't believe his eyes. Ecologist John B. Hong conducted an experiment, creating a paradise for the rats, where they were given unlimited water and food supplies and space to house up to 3,840 individuals. The initial 4 pairs of rats multiplied rapidly and reached 620 on day 315, after which behavioral abnormalities began to appear. The stronger rats occupied the best territories and took all the food, whereas the weaker ones were pushed into limited spaces. Tired of fighting for survival, the rats became aggressive and killed their cubs, and social disintegration began. Rats appeared, which, having given up fighting, began to live in conditions resembling homelessness. Even Alita's reproductive activity decreased due to excessive stress. And by day 600, when numbers peaked at 2,200 individuals, they began to decline rapidly. Despite the fact that as the number of individuals decreased, conditions became favorable again. The rats continued to focus only on themselves and ignore the others. The population continued to decline, and the rat paradise experiment was terminated after 1,500 days on the verge of disaster. The teacher said during class that he would now hand out graded test papers and asked everyone to be quiet. Nara looked at her fox and saw that it had 40 points on it, but the girls next to her said they had 96 each. But one of the girls said she got all 100 points. Nara said, "What's wrong with that? Was she the only one who found the test hard?" The girl was telling her not to get discouraged. Nara realized at that moment that their grades were the same in middle school, and now she feels like she's the only one behind everyone else. So what's wrong with her life? Can she even get into university? But suddenly she heard someone saying that all she does is loaf around every day. That's why her grades are so terrible. Nara immediately stood up and asked what did they say. The friend turned around and asked, "So what?" Nara said that they had just comforted her. But the girl replied that they had said nothing of the sort. "And what? Was that not true?" she asked. Nara was greatly surprised and asked what they were saying. The girl asked her how many tutors she thought she saw every day. She keeps learning even though she's bored with it. Does she think she can ever be on the same level as her? With her, who studies every day without stopping. Was the test really that difficult for her? Did other people's efforts seem pointless to her? Shameless. Nara became very hurt and told them to stop. Why are they suddenly saying all this? Suddenly one of the scientists said that he would now start his experiment. After patting his palms a couple times, he pulled everyone out of the classroom. Nara was very surprised and asked what was going on, and didn't even realize that she was going as the #1 test subject. Nara didn't understand what was going on and wondered where everyone had gone. She started looking and saw on the board that it said hide and seek game and let her watch out for the killer. Wu also became a test subject, and while walking to school, he asked why it was suddenly dark. And he was #2 in the experiment. W started to open the doors and asked what the hell. Did someone decide to make a joke? Looking up from the balcony, he saw a bunch of houses. The girls were also walking around the school and saying that no one was here. It was like they were in some kind of theme park. The girl asked her friend, "Is she scared?" And the phone doesn't even work. What the hell is that supposed to be? But suddenly the girls saw and said there was a man there, and they decided to go to him and ask him. At that time, the girl came up and apologized because she wanted to ask something, but a guy who was holding a bloody axe looked in their direction. The girls were frightened and started to run away with all their might. But the guy with the axe said that whoever did not hide was not to blame. He went out into the corridor and heard someone say that he was caught. At that time, 3 guys with guns were coming towards him and telling him to come to them. Wu looked at them and asked, "So they're the ones who set this place up?" But the boys were out of breath and said that they were finally going to eat it. So they decided they would eat it. All 3 of them pounced on him and wished themselves a good appetite. But Wu immediately hit the first one in the head. The others threw themselves at him with guns too, and in a moment they were saying that they had caught him. But Wu wasn't that easy and took all 3 of them down. One of the guys woke up and told him he was the one they wanted. Wu asked if they thought they could handle him. The lad replied that they would look at it now. And turning to the ragman, they told him to see what deliciousness they had found for him, and ordered him to eat it. The ragman came out and said it looked good. He's drooling. And then he ate one of his owners. Wu was surprised by this and thought, aren't they in on it? He immediately went to attack it, and suddenly his hand was stuck in the monster's body. The ragman wasn't even surprised and immediately punched him with his fist. Then he grabbed him and lifted him in front of him. The raghead started throwing him left and right, and seeing the guy's condition, he asked, "So how fast did he die?" But Wu asked him, "Is he still drunk?" But Raggy immediately opened his mouth and tried to swallow it. Wu released his energy and told him to watch, so he wouldn't choke, and immediately launched his crushing attack. After destroying the monster with his punch, rats suddenly sprinkled out of it and scattered in a flash. Wu looked up and asked, did they get into a rat hole? But at that time, Nara was hiding in the classroom so the enemies wouldn't notice her. Nara wondered, who are these scarecrows? Or are they evil spirits too? But suddenly she saw a girl in front of her who was pointing her finger to stop her from screaming. Nara at this point wondered, who was she? Suddenly the monster found her and said that's where she was hiding. She looked into his face and saw the monster raise an axe on his head and ran away at the moment of the attack. All the monsters saw her and started running after her. But the girl shouted at her to hurry up and run here. Nara asked at the moment of escape, who are these people? The girl replied that anyone, but they're definitely not people. They are rats. Nara asked who? The girl replied the rats that ate her fingernails. But in a moment she looked ahead and Nara said they were at a dead end. When they looked back, they saw that the monsters were already standing in front of them, ready to cut them into little pieces. Nara asked what should they do. The girl picked up the axe and answered her to stay close to the railing. The girl turned back around and cut the ropes that held all the cabinets. They went sideways, and everything collapsed on top of the monsters. Nara was greatly surprised at this turn of events. The girl opened her closet and told her to follow her. She would explain everything to her on the way. Nara looked in her direction, and seeing the path through the closet, said she wasn't even surprised. Nara asked, "Is this the way out of here?" The girl answered that it was not, and let her come out, and here is her sanctuary. The girl said those things didn't know about this place yet, so you could at least relax a little. Nara asked if she lived here. The girl replied that yes, she didn't think she would be here for so long either. This girl's name is Kim Hyun-ah, and she said that she came here about a month ago. And when she woke up, it was exactly the same. The rat hole is what Hyun-ah called this place. Hyun-ah said she didn't feel like they were all like lab rats. There's probably 30 people here already. Teenagers who were dragged here. Nara asked with surprise, 30? And where are they all? Hyun-ah replied that they're almost all dead by now. They're being eaten by those rats. And newcomers like her get trapped. It's a hell created by the king. Nara asked in surprise, the king? The monsters told Wu at this time that this was a prison created by the Rat Kingdom. Only the survivor of the competition would be able to climb to the top. What's up there? Upstairs. The monster replied, power. A throne of absolute power. And only the first person who takes the top spot will sit on it. Wu said he understood. It turns out to be the Rat King. The monster said that's exactly what it is. And also, you can get out of the rat hole by taking the throne. You asked, so the only way out of here is to seize the throne? And now he needs to see this king of theirs. Let them lead him to him. The monster agreed and replied to trust them. All he has to do is walk this way. Wu said to let them be the first to go. But suddenly, the monsters walked through that door and immediately lost their heads. Wu didn't expect this turn of events. And suddenly the man in the dark said, that's why you can't trust rats. They'll betray you any chance they get. No camaraderie, no brotherhood. Wu asked, so is he the king? The guy replied that yes, he is the master of this place. But Wu didn't let him do that and immediately punch him in the head with his hand. After the punch, rats came out of boyfriend's face, and he said he was a cheeky kid. But Wu continued to throw his punches. The guy replied that he was just one of the test subjects for him, and rudeness had to be paid for. The rats started devouring W, and he asked why he was doing all this. The guy replied that someone else's dessert always seems sweeter, didn't he think so? And he wondered what was so special about this Nara girl. He wondered if she was here, too. The guy replied that her experiment had already begun, and said he wondered what was in it, and decided to look at his darkness. W got angry at one point and told him to get out. When I opened my eyes, I saw that he was in a different place, and said it was the house he lived in as a child. W asked what he had done to him. Did it go to his head? But suddenly his father came to him at once and addressed him. The father told his son that he was back. W was greatly surprised and asked, "Father?" He immediately remembered all the moments and told his father that he had missed him. The father told his son that he was pleased to see him, at least like this, and how he's grown, taller than even his own father, and he wanted to apologize for leaving him alone. He's so sorry. But like then, like now, he's always alone. His father told him to never forget why they were hiding in the mountains. He would always bring misfortune to those around him. These are the ones he loves so much, and showed the memories when his grandmother was dying in front of him. Running into the women's restroom, girlfriend said it seemed like they were getting ripped off. The friend replied that it's so quiet in here. Maybe they'll come out. The girl asked her, is she crazy? They would stay here, and don't let her think such stupid things. Those maniacs really try to kill them. Suddenly, someone came into the toilet. The girls were very frightened and realized that someone had entered. Suddenly, several feet appeared in front of their door. A friend thought, is it human? And maybe ask him for help? Suddenly, the door opened, and the monster asked who was there. The girls got really scared and cornered themselves. The monster said, that's how someone really is here. Monster pulled out her knife and told her own that they were here. She asked who was there this time. The monsters were yelling at them to come out to them and not be afraid. At this time, Nara looked at the board and saw pictures of her friends. Nara asked in surprise, Su-jin and Unseo, did they end up here too? She said her friends were in danger. Hyen asked with surprise, friends? Does she think they consider her their friend too? Nara asked what she meant. Hen replied that only one person can sit on the throne. That means that only one of them can get out of the hole. And even if they help each other, each of them wants to live, so there is no concept of friends here. Nara remembered at that moment what her friends had said to her during class. She realized that they would never have said that to her. Hyen told her that Gum was testing her, and the safest thing to do is to just sit here. That way she can't be harmed and definitely won't be deceived. Nara took the sharp objects and said that if they weren't humans but demons, she could fight them. Hyuna asked, what is she doing? Nara replied that she would help them. The girl asked, is she completely stupid? She told her that only one can get out of here. Nara said that she was going to shepherd everyone and they would return home. Yu at this time saw a memory of standing in front of his grandmother's body and mourning her. Wu said she was a good person and died protecting someone like him. She shouldn't have died for nothing. His father left him, now his grandmother. He's alone again, and now he's afraid to be alone. The guy looked at his memories too and said he turns out to have fear and loneliness. And the fear of being abandoned is his darkness. He thinks he cares for those he loves, but in reality, he is afraid of being alone, a coward. But Wu stood his ground and shouted that it was not so. The guy was surprised and replied that he longed for love so much. But then what were those spikes? The guy asked him what he was hiding. He reached into his head and said to let him look even further. After all, people always hide their weakness and ugly nature deep inside. That's the way it's always been. He wants to see his weakness and ugliness. But suddenly he saw the wolf in front of him, who showed his teeth to devour him. The guy asked, is that really what he's hiding? And what are those spikes for? But suddenly Wu grabbed his arm. But it turned out to be Guy's father and told Guy to stop. They were hiding in the mountains and teaching him to be human for a reason. He grew those thorns himself. Let him not touch them. The guy was surprised and said he wanted to let him out. Suddenly, all of a sudden, he ripped off the thorns, and Wu's essence came out. and went to crush the guy. W immediately ripped off his arm and even half his body. The boy didn't realize at that moment what he had signed up for. The boy realized that this kid wasn't just hiding his identity. He was sealing it. W opened his mouth and swallowed this guy whole. Coming out into the real world, the guy thought his perfect world was ruined. Wu wasn't so easy either, and showing his true form. He attacked him with his sharp claws. Wu didn't stop there and continued to deliver his crushing attacks, leaving a trail of holes in his chest. And now the guy really understood what the man was talking about. He'd unleashed the real beast. The guy told him he was driven by instinct. Did he hear him? If so, let him remember that. He has prepared a special performance for him, and now let him find it. Wu realized that the wolf inside him was chanting. Now, don't let him hold back. The strong devour the weak. That's the law of nature. Let him think and feel. He is now completely free. W gave his wolf permission to rage and do what he wanted. You gave him the will and told him to hunt them down. And those who had invaded his territory now needed to be avenged. Let him kill them. Wu started fighting the monsters and didn't even look at who they were, and with his claws he tore everyone around him. W was telling his wolf that he was a real predator. At this time in the restroom, the monsters grabbed them, and the girl asked, "Why are they doing this?" Let them have mercy on them. The monster said they were pathetic, and put a knife in her face, and showed her that she was a nibble and he wanted to eat her. But all of a sudden, a ray suddenly swept through and stabbed into the monster's chest. After that, he immediately turned into an ordinary rat. Turning around, they saw a girl standing behind them who had shot their ally. Nara told them to get out of here. The monsters rejoiced and replied that here she was. The girls were surprised and asked with surprise, "Nara?" The monsters immediately chased after her. Nara was very clever and trapped them by pretending to go into the room. But there was actually a cliff that the monsters fell for. The monsters started cheering and saying it was mean. Nara looked at it and said it worked. Hen looked at her with surprise and said that it wasn't a bad idea. The girls got very excited and thanked her. Hen realized in her head that she really did save the day. It turns out they really are friends. Hen remembered a moment from her childhood. She was standing on the top of the school and looking down. But people saw her and asked, "Isn't that Hyuna from their class?" The girl asked what she was doing. "Is she going to jump? What's going on with her?" Hen realized it was her so-called friends. "It's just an illusion." Nara said that she did say that the exit was upstairs somewhere, right? Hen replied that, "Yes, we have to get to the roof." Hen realized that they would turn out to be the same and betray each other for the throne. It would be better if she just went back to the sanctuary. Hen said she doesn't want to be betrayed anymore, and she was better off alone. But suddenly Nara held out her hand and suggested that they go together. But suddenly Hen yelled out that she had a monster behind her. The girls turned around and saw that the monsters had caught them. Suddenly one of the monsters attacked Naru. She was confused at that moment. But suddenly, Wu came and cut the monster into pieces with his punch. The girls were frightened and asked, "What is this?" But Wu didn't spare anyone and killed all the monsters in front of them. The girls said the monster is one of them, and now they have to run away from him. Wu turned around in their direction and showed himself. Hen was surprised and said he was coming this way, but Wu saw only a target in front of him to destroy and pounced on Naru. Nara covered her face with her hands and shouted Wu, but she was surprised and didn't understand why she suddenly called his name. She continued to call her name, but Wu hugged her at the last moment and tried to control his emotions. The guy had been watching the whole time and said finally, this is what he expected him to do. Let him finish her off. Let him show his true colors. Wu began to slowly sink his claws into her back. Nara started screaming that she was in pain. Hen realized that she was just like she knew she shouldn't have gone with them. Now it was time to run. He's a real monster. Wu began to slowly rip her back with his claws. Nara said she was in pain. Nara was screaming at him to wake up immediately. Wu tried to block his monster from hurting her. Suddenly, he came to his senses and let her go. Nara immediately moved away from him to her girls. The guy thought, why did he stop? Totally unpredictable guy. At that moment, he wondered what's happening to him. Hen told Nara that they needed to leave soon. Wu looked at her back after she started to walk away and realized what he had done. I wonder where she was going. Don't let her go. There is no need to leave him. But he did not leave her and went after them. Hen said he's going after them, and we need to get upstairs faster. But Wu stopped at the corner and looked behind them. Hen took it all in stride and told him to leave and stay away from them. The girl asked what was wrong with him. Why was he backing away? Nara thought at that moment, it's definitely Jin Wu, isn't it? He responded when she called his name. Hen told the girl to forget about him. It's only a short distance to the roof. Hurry up and get there. But suddenly monsters appeared in front of them and were already waiting for them. They said, "Here come the humans." Hen said it's shit. Everywhere you go, there are rats. The monsters were already prepared and wanted to eat them. Nara asked, will it be possible to break through? Hen replied that there was no other way, so we would have to fight. Nara picked up her pencils and wondered if she would be able to hit all of them with her arrows. So she decided to start with the ones closest to them. But suddenly, Wu walked by them and headed towards the monsters. He immediately turned into a beast and started killing everyone. Hen asked that monster, is he helping them? Nara answered that it seems yes. The girl said that's great. They will take advantage of the moment and make a run for it. The guy watched everything and said the wolf cub is ruining his whole game. He can't control him at all, but it's even more fun for him. The unpredictability makes the game even more interesting. It's like he's holding a brand new toy. Going upstairs, Hen said they were finally on the roof. The guy kept saying that he would break the wolf before the end. Hen pointed and said that that was the only way out, and they had to go to the top. Nara looked and said it was high. Is she saying they're going to the very top? Suddenly a guy came out from the other side and turned to Hen. He asked her if she had decided to come out of hiding after all. Has she changed her mind about hiding yet? Hen was surprised and said that number 18 was still alive. The guy replied that she was still not interested in others. Isn't it about time she memorized his name already? Oyungo. The other girls were surprised and thought he was handsome. Ho tells Nara that this is the first time he's seen her. Is she new? Ho says this is his third attempt, and he could help her. Nara replied that it was nice to meet you and introduced herself. But at this point, Wu came over and seeing them holding hands immediately showed his teeth to the guy. Ho didn't realize what it was. He was frightened and started to run away. He asked, is it a person? Nara asked, it's him, Jin Wu, right? Nara asked him, did he give up his human form? Why did he do that? But Wu didn't answer anything and jumped into the air. Nara was surprised and asked where he was going. Suddenly a guy appeared at the top and addressed the survivors, saying that the final challenge was about to begin. Hen said, here comes Gum. He is the king of the rats. Gum started to say that the winner will be the one who sits on the throne first. And yesterday's losers can fight again. The winners never give up, and their efforts will not be in vain. Nara was surprised and asked why so many other contestants. Gum said that the winner will get everything. And now the game begins. Gum looked and said that if they wanted to survive, let them run to the throne. At this time, Wu was on his way to this rat king. The contestants asked if this guy was new here. No fear at all, climbing alone up there. The second participant replied that it was better for them to be a human shield. The contestant said they could go around the side while he distracted them to himself. I wonder how long he can hold out. Gum at this time stood at the top and was only surrounded by an army of monsters, and immediately said that the game had begun. Gum told her boys it's feast time. Let them eat them all. But Wu wasn't afraid and rushed at them. Wu turned on his head sense and proceeded to destroy everyone in a puff of smoke, leaving behind only bloody bodies. A member below asked, is this even real? Is he definitely human? The guy told his own that they had to go, and thanks to him, it will be easier. Hen told her girls to hurry up too. Nara also ordered her friends to head over as well. The contestant said that this time he would definitely win. He will get out of here. He will definitely survive. The guy said he was coming home. Suddenly, he saw two monsters in front of him coming at him. The monster immediately stuck his axe in his chest, and the guy got his hopes wrong. He started screaming and begging for help. The monsters started to surround them, and one of the guys said he would distract the ones on the right. The other guy said he would then take on the left. But the other guy saw that it would be better to act on his own and pushed his friend towards the monsters. The guy said he was a bastard and he wouldn't forgive him. He wondered why he had done it then. He saw the motorcycle with the key left behind, could have just walked past it. He should have left it alone. And the last thing he remembers is getting on it, while no one can see, and running off, happy as a little boy. And then nothing at all. After betraying his friend, he said he wanted to go home and let them forgive him for hurting them. He won't do anything stupid again, he promises. And the most important thing to him is that he gets out of here. But all of a sudden, someone suddenly threw an axe from behind at his back, which immediately stabbed into his back. The guy took his axe and said that from now on, anyone in front of him would die. And if they don't want to die, let them stay downstairs. Downstairs, the guy asked him, is he crazy? Is he sick of living? Does he think he can make it on his own? The guy replied, why not? Let him try to overpower him. But the contestant jumped on him and shouted that he would kill him. And then he'd get up himself. And he's the only one who's going to get out of here. Nara saw and said they were all crazy. She thought that if they joined together, they would get out of here together. They can become friends and each help the other. Is it possible? Hyung said it started. Is that why she hates this place? Nara asked, is it always like this here? Hen replied that people change, but the situation is still the same. There's bound to be a psycho like him. Even someone who seems normal at first changes quickly when he gets desperate. Hen said that this place is a living hell. The guy killed 2 of the contestants and asked what else they were dissatisfied with. The guy said that if they pissed, let them sit quietly like dead men. He'd be the winner this time. As soon as he gets out of here, he'll kill everyone who turned him into the police. But Wu suddenly appeared and knocked him out with 1 punch. The participants were surprised and said it flew off with 1 punch. It sure is amazing this time. Wu was surprised himself and realized that he had only hit lightly. He realized that there was a monster inside him that only hurt people. The participants asked who the guy was. W felt that he was scaring people. And when people recognized their identity, their reaction was always the same: disgust and fear. How do you think they would react if they saw him now? But suddenly he saw Nara looking at her, and Wu realized that whatever he was, she was still calling him by his human name. The wolf immediately told him that they actually had a job to do. They need to catch a rat. Wu replied not to worry, but to leave it to him. The wolf told him that he could not do without him. Wu replied that love and mutual help. He remembered his father telling him that being human wasn't that hard. Appearances were not the most important thing. And be a wolf outwardly, but live as a human being. His grandmother asked him as a child what his name was. The guy replied that his name is Jen Wu, and that's who he really is. And now he has to kill this rat. The girl saw the guy and asked, wasn't that Jen Wu? Nara realized that it was him after all. Wu told her to hold on a little longer. Let her protect her friends. In the meantime, he'll deal with that bastard. Gum says he recognizes he deserves to be first. And it's just a game. Let him just take that throne and get out of here. W replied that he didn't care about his game. He's his target. He locks up innocent souls, makes them kill each other. And tonight, his filthy fun will end. He will put an end to his filthy amusements. Gum asked entertainment is just a small model of the human world. The anger, hatred, murder, and malice of all people obsessed and consumed by feelings. He was born in the flames of the Korean War on June 25th. He grew up eating the bitterness and rage of dying people. And all that made him what he is now. But of course, what he ate in those days tasted better, but that's not bad either. And there's nothing sweeter than hate-filled souls, doesn't he think? He started yelling for the demon to come down. Gum said the real devils are humans, and let them keep fighting and hating each other. Gum released his rats and grabbed the guy. Wu didn't have time to react and realized it was the same punch. But Wu released his attack and said that they don't work on him twice, and destroyed the rats with 1 hit. Wu got very close to him and used the storm cloud against him. He said, why are they scum only good at torturing others? But Gum didn't lose it and asked if he thought the fun was over. Wu replied that that was what his true nature was. Gum said repulsion, hatred, envy, despair, denial. He is the epitome of those feelings. That is the real face of a man. They all hide their ugly true faces under masks. That's what they are. Nara saw the mayhem on his way to the top and realized he was fighting alone. But suddenly at this time, one of the participants asked for help because the monster was about to finish him off. But Nara didn't let that happen and took a pencil shot right at the monster's head. The guy turned around and said thank you. Nara said that he almost died, but Hen replied that now was not the time to think about others. She's helping the competition. Let her see the others are way ahead of her. Nara said that whatever they were, they couldn't just watch people die and didn't realize whether it was kindness or stupidity. And even if someone dies, most people just watch it. But suddenly, she was thinking and the monster attacked her. But the girl pulled her and told her to dodge. Nara told Hen to wake up. What's she doing hovering in the clouds? It's time to go. Hen came to her senses and replied that yes, she was going. Hen realized that she didn't really want to go up on the roof. She was afraid to go out because it was an even bigger hell outside. But when she asked to go along with them, she didn't abandon her. It gave her courage. And suddenly, one of the contestants stepped up to the throne and said that the first place was his. He had won. Nara was surprised and asked, didn't she save him? The girl said no, she couldn't have. Was the game over? Nara thought about it and felt that she had saved him in vain. For a moment, regret flashed through her mind, and it would be better if she pretended not to notice. And people's dark emotions begin to fill the rat hole. But suddenly one of the participants tossed him aside and told him to get out of here. He doesn't deserve this. Hen looked at it and said it's not too late. It's time to move out. Immediately, Nara also rushed up, not taking her eyes off the exit. Nara didn't understand and thought, why is she running? And was this hole really the only way out? She became very curious about what was beyond that hole. And who made the rules? Gum continued to fight the wolf, and with strong attack said that only he was the king here. The wolf saw that he was in danger, and said he told you he would still need his help. Wu replied not to go out. He would handle it himself. Gum asked him what he was mumbling. Wu released his energy and said he would do it on his own. But Gum replied that it was useless. He picked his moment and punched him in the head. Gum had said he was invulnerable here, in a place overflowing with dark human emotions. W asked if it was okay to brag so openly about his weaknesses. Will told him not to deny it. They're like waves that collide and absorb each other, but still remain part of one person. And then there is another power within them, the Thunderlord. He doesn't know how to use the relic yet. Suddenly, Wu was surprised to think, relic? Let him remember how Hunback used the power of the thistle. Black Snake. Gum pounced on it and told it to die. But Wu arranged against him and stopped him. Gum asked, is he still trying to fight? Wu replied that he too had a darkness within him that he wished to hide. He was afraid of being swallowed up, but he realized that it was a part of him, and he will not suppress it. And instead, he would unleash it. And suddenly a storm wolf appeared before them. Wu used all his power on the monster, and the energy was so great that lightning engulfed the place. The participants also stopped and asked, what is this? Gum replied that this kid broke the rules in his world, just impossible. How did it happen? Wu replied that he may be the king of his space, but that doesn't make him invincible. And the game was over and he lost. Gum asked, why does it hurt so much? And the guy can't kill him. He can regenerate as long as he wants. Wu replied, telling him to stop bragging already. He's bluffing like a real rat. Let him fight instead of crawling away. But suddenly Wu turned around and saw that there were scratches and realized that space had cracked. Nara said that this place is dark everywhere and it seems endless. It's like when she was trapped inside the fox. They're inside Gum's soul, aren't they? At this time, Gum sat on his throne and tried to say goodbye with his life. Nara tightened her pencil. Hen asked, what is she doing? Nara replied that she'd managed to get out of a place like that once before. If she was right, there was a way out not only at the top. You just have to find a way. As Jinwoo did, Nara immediately released an arrow, and everything around Gam started to crumble. They looked around, and Hen said that everything was collapsing. The girl replied that there was a hole in the sky. Gum saw the light appear and said it couldn't be that. His kingdom. How dare she? But Wu swooped in with a punch and asked him where he was going. They hadn't finished the game yet. Gum said he was a bastard. and swooped down to attack him. But at that time, everything started to collapse, and the girls fell from a height of several meters. The contestants shouted that the tower was collapsing. Let them go upstairs quickly. But suddenly Nara stopped and said that it was not collapsing. Hen was surprised and asked what. Nara replied that another way has appeared. If you go that way, everyone can get out. Hen realized in her head that she had never heard of any other way to get out of here. Would they really be able to get out? Nara walked forward and said they had to go, and reached out to her again. Hen was surprised and asked together. She realized that she had no friends at her new school. She was a loner, but A was the first to reach out to her. She was beautiful, smart, and popular. They became fast friends because they had a lot in common. A was bright and friendly, making her a part of the company. And of course, A was in charge. Upon arriving home, Hen said she was home. Her mother met her on the doorstep and greeted her. Mother said she looked so pleased. Did something good happen at school? Hyun replied that they went to karaoke with their friends. She even managed to show off her singing skills. It was so great. Her mother asked, right? Did her little Hyun take after her because she sings so well? In fact, it was who was a great singer. She was good at everything, and she wanted to be like her. She wanted to be just a little bit like her. She always wondered if it was admiration or envy. She wanted to surpass her for once. In class, the teacher said that the results of the exams were already known. Let them sort out their sheets by number order. Hen picked up her fox and saw that it had 99 points. She said that she had made it. The girls asked her on the way home, did she really get first place? I said how cool it was to be the first. Hen didn't understand and thanked her. She took her friends and they went to get some goodies. When her class ranking went up, someone else's went down. She didn't think it would be an A rating. As time went on, there were more and more conversations in which she understood nothing. And then someone stuck gum on her new sweatshirt that she was just getting as a gift. She would pull the gum out and say who could have done it. But she couldn't tell anyone about it. She was ashamed. Hen asked herself, what had she done wrong? Had she hurt any of her friends? But sitting in the restroom, she overhears her friends discussing her and saying she's just imitating A and pathetic. She couldn't help herself and climbed up to the roof of the school. She wondered why it was so easy for everyone else and so hard for her. Maybe it was really about her. And is it her fault? Why is it so hard to reach out to someone who's in trouble? And then someone pushed her and left a number on her back. And that's how her life ended. She didn't want this, but now she could find a friend who would always come to her aid. In a moment of rising, Nara was telling her that just a little more. They're almost at the target. Let Hen hurry up a bit. Hen couldn't understand what was happening and wondered what was wrong with them. Why did they make her want to live? Gum was telling the guy to stop bullying him. And that's it. Game over. They can get out through that hole. But Wu stayed and replied that no, it was too early. Gum was surprised and asked what? Guy replied that he would tear the place apart to the point where he wouldn't dare to do such filth again. And let him not even dare to think about such a thing. He's a damn bastard. I immediately aimed my lightning bolt straight at his body. Everything in the moment started to collapse, and some guys were left on the throne that supported them upstairs. The others were screaming that the tower was collapsing. Could anyone help them? But one of the contestants was pushing everyone and saying that the first place was his. The guy got excited and was saying that he had won and he was a winner. He had survived. Nara looked up at this time and said that space was collapsing. She saw that something was about to happen here and said they were being sucked in. Let them hold on a little longer. Hen couldn't believe it the whole time and thought, can they really get out? She could get out of this hell back home, and there's still a little bit left. She remembered her mother telling her to just be patient for a while, to try to love herself. And now she has to live to make things right, and not give up. But suddenly it was all over in 1 second, and she said goodbye to her life. Hen collapsed on the bench and said she was really unlucky. Nara took her hand and begged her to wake up. Hen was telling her that her hand was so warm. Nara had been telling her the whole time to keep her warm. Hen began to apologize to her mother for being so angry. Suddenly, her soul left her body. Nara was very angry at this moment for not being able to save her, and took a piece of her soul as a parting gift. Coming to her senses, Nara looked at her hands and realized that it wasn't a dream, really. In her hands was a shard of Hen's soul. And lifting her head, she saw her in front of her. Hen said that maybe she could meet. Sometime in the future, awkwardly meeting in unfamiliar surroundings and saying hello to each other. Get closer and share secrets like real friends. She could be her real friend. Nara told her that no, they were already friends. Hen decided to leave her alone and thanked her goodbye. At that time, Wu came in and asked if she was okay. Nara cried and replied that she thought Hen had died. She told her they would leave together, but she couldn't protect her. She survived, but Hyung didn't. Wu said it wasn't her fault. One thing he now realized that day was that this is what he wanted to hear. These were the words he wanted to say to himself as a child. It's not his fault. Wu told Nara that nothing was her fault. He understood the guilt of not being able to protect the person he loved. The loneliness left in the wake of loss. Emotions he never wants to experience again. He wondered why Beck was after this girl. Fox told Nara that they would definitely meet her again. Wu promised himself that he wouldn't let anyone hurt her. He will definitely protect her, even if she has to become a beast to do so. He will save her.